Story 1. Am I wrong for sending my ex-fiancé a picture with a guy that I'm seeing to make him feel jealous when he reached out to me after standing me up at our wedding? I, 26F, was supposed to get married last year, but the wedding never ended up happening because, unfortunately, my groom made a run for it right before the ceremony was supposed to start and never showed up. My ex-fiancé, Garrett, 23M, and I had been together for 3 years before he proposed. We met through friends and got along very well. The first time we met happened to be at a party hosted by one of our common friends. We discovered that we had a lot in common and ended up talking the entire evening, after which he asked me out. I said yes. We went out on a couple of dates and realized that we really liked each other. Within 3 months, we were officially in a relationship, and everything was going great. 6 months in, we had introduced each other to our families, and a year later we moved in together. We were in love, and I couldn't imagine anyone better for me than him. I was convinced that he was my soulmate, and everything was blissful for the 3 years that we were together. We did have occasional fights, but we would always make up, and it would never be too serious, so we had nothing to worry about. Our friends and family constantly commented on how great our relationship was, and I believed it because, honestly, we probably had the healthiest relationship ever. Anytime we had a problem or an issue, we would just talk to each other and sort it out. That's a promise that we had made to each other, that we would always talk things through and never give up on each other. So, when he decided to propose over a year ago, I said yes because everybody had their eyes on us since it was a public event that he had organized for the proposal. But later on, when we were on our own, I decided to talk to him because, in spite of the love that we had for each other, I was still 3 years older than him. I know it's not a lot, but in our 20s, 3 years makes a huge difference. When I had met him, he had been 20 and I had been 23, and even I had been kind of skeptical about dating him because he seemed young, almost too young to be with me, and I was worried about what people would say. But he was just so charming and wonderful that I couldn't help but say yes because it just felt like it was meant to be. But marriage was a big deal, and I didn't want him to sign up for something that he wasn't ready for yet just because it was the socially acceptable thing to do. So, the night of our engagement, I sat him down and asked him if he was sure about this because I was ready to wait for a couple more years until he was a bit older and had made up his mind about marriage. It could very well be possible that 3 years later, maybe he wouldn't be on the same page about marriage, and I didn't want that to ruin what we had. I was ready to wait for him, and I wanted him to know that there was no pressure on him to get married as soon as we could just because people believed that we had to. But he reassured me that he was ready for it, and the only reason that he had proposed to me and asked me to marry him was because he wanted to. There was no pressure on him anyway. So, I had spoken to him about this, but in spite of that, he ruined everything that we had. There was a gap of almost 8 months between our engagement and our wedding, so he had 8 months to tell me that he had been having second thoughts about the wedding instead of embarrassing me at the altar. But for the entirety of those months, he said nothing and just sat tight with his mouth shut. He pretended to be in love with me the entire time, and even in the last week leading up to the wedding, he said nothing, and there was literally no way for me to know that he had been having second thoughts and didn't want to get married anymore. Truly was an Academy Award-worthy performance. I have to give him that. And maybe somewhere deep down, I also wanted to believe that he wouldn't abandon me or do anything to jeopardize our relationship, which is why I turned a blind eye to a lot of subtle, small things. The signs were really small, but I had noticed them. I just convinced myself that it was no big deal and everything would be fine. I also didn't want to seem like a crazy, paranoid person making a big deal out of everything by bringing those things up. They were little things, like he had stopped waiting for me to finish my meal before he got up from the dinner table, something that he would always do before since I was a slow eater. He also started slowly spending more time on the phone before bedtime, but before the engagement we would always go to bed at the same time and keep our phones aside for some personal quality time. It was just small things like these that made me feel a little weird, but I didn't bring it up with him because I didn't want to come off as paranoid or silly. He was getting married to me. I had the ring on my finger, so small things like these should not have mattered to me. That's what I told myself and convinced myself not to worry about any of these things and let it all slide. But other than that, there were no other signs, and I literally could never have predicted that he would have left me at the altar after everything that we had promised to each other. In the week leading up to the wedding, we were still going strong. He constantly kept telling me that he loved me, and everything was normal. I couldn't even be bothered to notice small stuff anymore because I was just so excited to be married. But things shifted on the morning of the wedding. We were not supposed to see each other before the ceremony began, so we couldn't talk to each other, but in spite of that, he could have just talked to me the night before, and it would have been a lot more respectable than what he actually did. I realized that something was really wrong right before I was supposed to walk down the aisle. But instead of taking me to the venue, my parents and the groomsmen came to my room to tell me that they had scanned the entire hotel but Garrett was nowhere to be found, and they had even checked the security footage where they had found out that he had actually left in the middle of the night before. I was still trying to give him the benefit of the doubt, and I said that we could wait for a few hours just to see if he would come back. But he didn't. I had a mental breakdown when I realized it in the next couple of days. That night, he sent me a text message to explain himself. He told me that he wasn't sure if he wanted to do this anymore because he was too young. He had been thinking about this for quite some time, and he had come to the conclusion that it was just not the right time for him to get married. He felt like he had a lot left to accomplish and achieve in his personal life before he settled down and started thinking about marriage, and I had been right. The discussion that we had on the night of our engagement is actually what made him reconsider what he was doing. But he couldn't talk to me about it later on because I was just so excited and he couldn't break my heart. He kept thinking that he would eventually have a change of heart himself. But that never happened, and he kept waiting for it to get better, but he just kept getting more worried and paranoid about the future. And so, before he made another big mistake, he had decided to walk away from the altar and put an end to this because he just couldn't marry me anymore for his own sake. And even if he did get married to me, it would just be for the sake of saving face. And then he would end up resenting me, which is not something he wanted to do. So he was ending it while we were standing in front of a bunch of people and I was in my wedding dress. Clearly, that was the perfect time to have that discussion. I had so many things that I wanted to say to him after I read that text because I was hurt, I was upset, and I was so betrayed. But I chose to stay dignified because I couldn't let my emotions get the better of me. So I only decided to tell him that I accepted his decision and the only thing that I wanted from him was that he would have to pay for the entire event and whatever money I had spent on the wedding so far, he would have to reimburse me for it. And that's the only way I would accept it. He agreed to it and that was it. As soon as I pressed send on that text, I literally broke down yet again, crying through the night, and it was complete chaos in my life after that. I don't even remember when I stopped crying. It must have been days after the incident. I didn't see him again. He didn't even come back home to collect his things, and I still have them in a box somewhere. After he had stood me up at the altar, I think my parents, my friends, and a few other relatives spent a good few days comforting me while I cried my eyes out. They took me back to my house after they had made sure that he wasn't lurking around. When I checked my phone, I realized that he had blocked me everywhere, and it just broke my heart even more. My parents stayed with me for a few weeks after the wedding, and my friends were kind enough to come visit me every day. Even his friends, his groomsmen, paid me a few visits just to see how I was doing and told me that they had cut him off entirely as well after the fiasco at the wedding because what he had done was not acceptable. But none of that mattered to me. I just wanted to move on and forget that I had even been involved with him because every time I thought about it, it made my heart hurt, and I couldn't take it anymore. So I decided to take a break from everyone and everything and just took off. I went away on a tour of Asian countries for around 6 months and tried my best to forget about everything, and I have got to say, it helped a lot. I know that this is not something that is accessible to everyone, but I am a working woman myself, and I have quite a lot of money saved up since I work in the field of investment banking, which is quite hectic but pays really well. Also, my dad is the CEO of his own business, which is quite lucrative, so he helped me out with the funds as well. And after my really long vacation, I came back feeling rejuvenated and like a totally different person. I moved out of my old house and into a smaller studio apartment so I could start fresh, and things have been going well so far. I also started therapy because it was quite necessary for me to really heal and recover from my past relationship, and it was quite helpful. Everything was going well until last week when Garrett got back in touch with me to tell me why he did what he did. I had changed my number, but somehow he got a hold of it. It was probably some friend of mine who gave it to him and didn't tell me, which is a gross violation, and once I found out who it was, I'm definitely going to stop talking to them. But coming back to this, Garrett reached out to me and texted me after almost a year since the day of our wedding that never took place. He sent me a text which said nothing, but it was just a hello, and it was from an unknown number. So of course, I responded, asking who it was, and then he launched into his story and sent me a really long text about how sorry he was and how much he wanted to patch things up with me. He told me that the things he had said before he walked away were all true, and he had actually been getting cold feet in the month leading up to the wedding because he felt like everything was happening too fast and he just wanted some more time. But now almost a year had passed, and he was doing much better career-wise since he had received a promotion and was in a much better position now, so now he felt like he had accomplished something and being married was not the only thing that was going to define him. He told me that he had thought about it for a long time and he had come to the conclusion that he had seriously screwed our relationship up and I didn't deserve it. He told me that he would like to give us a second chance and was ready to get married to me now if I was still willing to accept it and take him back the way he is. It's just a bunch of baloney about how he was sorry and hadn't stopped thinking about me ever since he left. If that was really true, he would have at least tried to contact me once. But he didn't. He kept talking about how he was a different man now, but if that was the case, then he still wouldn't be yapping on about himself and completely ignoring what he had put me through. A year later, after receiving the text, I realized how much progress I had made because that message made me feel nothing but annoyance towards him because it was such a pompous and disturbingly insensitive and tone-deaf thing to have said to me. To think that he was even in a position to suggest that he was ready to give us a second chance was so delusional and lacked awareness on so many levels that I realized what an idiot I had been with. I could have left it at that. I just ignored the message that he sent, but I did something which might have made me the a-hole. So, last week I decided to go out on a date with a coworker of mine. He was new and had been working with us for only a month, but we had been talking a lot. It felt weird because I wasn't completely over Garrett, but I felt like it was about time that I at least tried to move on from him actively. I had healed emotionally, and I had come to terms with the fact that he was never going to come back, and even if he did, I was not going to take him back. But still, a teeny tiny part of me still hasn't been able to completely forget him, which is why I hadn't been out on any dates in the past few months. However, my coworker and I had been talking for several weeks now, and I really liked him. I wouldn't say that I have feelings for him or anything of the sort, but I definitely could see something happening between us, and I wanted to give myself a real chance at a relationship again because Garrett might have broken my heart, but I wasn't going to let that dictate every other relationship of my life. So, after a lot of deliberation, I said yes when he asked me out, and I had taken a bunch of photos with him when we went out on our date. It was a really classy and fun date because first we went out to a restaurant and then we went to a bar and got totally drunk and sang karaoke with strangers. I had a picture with him where I was kissing him on the cheek, and both of us were pretty drunk in it. It was a cute picture, and I knew that if Garrett saw it, he would lose his mind, so I decided to send it to him and then block him just for the sake of it. I wanted him to feel bad, which is why I did it, and in hindsight, I shouldn't have done that because it just escalated the drama. After that text, I received a call from my parents, and they were really concerned because apparently, Garrett had shown up at their house and was begging them to let him speak to me because I had blocked him and he didn't know how else to talk to me. He was pretty desperate, and I could hear it in my mother's voice that she was very concerned because of the way that he was behaving. I could hear him in the background. He was wailing and acting like a toddler throwing a tantrum. I could hear my dad trying to calm him down with soothing words, but even that wasn't working, and he kept insisting that he wanted to talk to me and fix things with me because he was just not going to let me give up on us so easily. I was quite alarmed by the way that he was behaving, which is why I agreed to talk to him. That and also because I didn't want him to bother my parents anymore. Once my mother handed the phone to him, he started screaming at me hysterically and said that I couldn't be with someone else. He was clearly unhinged at that moment, and I was even shocked. He insisted that he would rather have me be single than with someone else because he knew that the two of us were meant to be together and he wasn't going to let anybody else come between us. He was talking like a textbook psychopath, and so I had to hurriedly explain to him that I had just sent that photo to make him feel bad for what he did, and I'm actually still single and not seeing anybody. The guy in the picture was just a friend and we were drunk. He continued to cry for a couple of more minutes, but then he said he was relieved and he knew that I would never do that to him. I didn't really know what to say because it was really awkward, so I just kept quiet. The truth is, I don't really know if I should classify myself as single or not because I'm kind of seeing my coworker, but he was just acting so crazy that I couldn't bring myself to tell him that I wasn't exactly single but I wasn't exactly taken either. I just wanted him to get out of my parents' house because I was concerned about them. On the phone call, he went on talking about how he knew that he and I were soulmates and that I was going to forgive him for his stupid little mistake and take him back. He then told me that no matter how much time it took, He would make sure that I forgive him and he would wait around for me to come back. Before I could say anything, he apologized for bothering my parents and then handed the phone back to my mother. I explained everything to my parents once he was out of the house, and they thought that what I did was pretty out of order because you never know what people are going through, and clearly there is something wrong with Garrett, so I never should have sent that photo to him. Even if what he did to me was wrong, I had no reason to stoop to his level and try and hurt him back, and I should have just let it go because it was not worth the drama. They also believe that I need to be honest with Garrett because clearly he is unstable and there's no telling what he might or might not do when he finds out that I'm actually seeing somebody and it happens to be the same guy that he was crying about. I'm bad and think that in order to prevent another mental breakdown, I should just come clean to him because when he finds out that I'm actually seeing somebody and I had lied to him, things are going to be much worse. I don't owe it to him, but it's a decent thing to do, and it's also so important for me to do right by my coworker. I want to think that my parents are right, but I also don't know if I want to talk to Garrett again because I have lost feelings for him, and I don't think that he is entitled to know anything about my life, let alone anything about my love life. He is simply not entitled to that information, and his mental health is completely his business. I am not responsible for it, just like he was not responsible for mine when he left me at the altar. I'm just feeling very confused about what to do. Update 1. Hi guys, so after a lot of thinking, I have decided that I'm not going to say anything to Garrett. My parents were wrong. I'm really not bound to tell him anything about my life. If he feels bad about it, then he can just continue to feel bad about it. It's not my problem. He had a psychotic meltdown. I feel bad for him, but that's the most that I can give him. My sympathy. I'm not going to give him another chance. I think my parents were only overreacting that day because he went to their house and they were very concerned about what they saw. It's obviously more difficult to not feel bad for somebody when you witness their mental breakdown firsthand, and that kind of explains why my parents were so kind to him because they couldn't help it. We are good people after all. However, let me just reiterate this once again. It is simply not my problem. It's just been one day since I put up my original post. Your response has already been so overwhelming that I have come to the conclusion already and I know what to do. I was just questioning myself for no reason. He was the one who left me at the altar, and it should have led to a much bigger mental breakdown than it did. But he didn't look back to check on me and see if I was doing fine. Instead, he actually blocked me everywhere and pretended that I never existed. So why should I do anything different for him? I'm glad that I did what I did. I could have been less petty, but that wouldn't have been as much fun. And anyway, Garrett has a better career by now, so I think he should just focus on that instead of trying to get back with me and doing something that is just not possible anymore. Update 2. So I told my parents about my decision to not talk to Garrett and keep him blocked. They were a bit resistant at first and said that I shouldn't do that because that would probably lead to another breakdown if he finally found out about my relationship. I told him that that was his problem entirely and I was not responsible for it. I explained everything to them calmly, and they seemed to understand. They told me that the only reason they were worried was because they didn't want something like that on my conscience because it takes a lot away from a person when they realize that the other is behind somebody else's depression. And they are right. But that doesn't mean I'm going to go out of my way to be nice to somebody and think about somebody who literally left me before my wedding and had no qualms about walking away from our relationship. That is not the kind of guy that I care about, and I am simply done with Garrett. I want nothing to do with him anymore. Update 3. Hey guys, so it's been 2 months since Garrett first reached out to me, and since then he has tried several times to get back to me. He tried texting me from different numbers and emailing me, but I just ignored all of it. He even started talking to our friends again and begging them to put me in touch with him just like he had done with my parents, but they refused. Nobody had any sympathy to spare for him after what he had done, and I, for one, am glad about it. He also tried to go back to my parents' place, but they nipped it in the bud this time and told him that if he bothered them again then they would call the cops on him, and that scared him enough to leave. He kept trying to reach me somehow, but I had made myself completely inaccessible to him, so he gave up trying around a week ago. I also learned from a couple of my friends that he had been lying about doing better career-wise and that he had actually started a business of his own which was flopping really bad. So that explains the breakdown that he had. Clearly, he was finding it very difficult to deal with his own failures and confront them, so he thought that coming back to me would give him a sense of accomplishment or whatever. I don't really know how stupid people think, so I don't understand the psychology behind it, but I'm guessing that his business failing is probably one of the reasons why he had that breakdown at my parents' place and was acting so psycho. Anyway, that's none of my business anymore, and that's his problem to deal with. My coworker and I are still seeing each other, and for those of you who are asking, yes, he is aware of my past and he asked me out in spite of that. He knew that I had been dumped at my wedding just a year ago and that I hadn't entirely moved on from it, but he still wants to be with me, so we'll just see where this goes. We are taking it slow and steady right now, but I really like him and I think he likes me too. Some people might say that it's way too soon to tell or be sure of anything, but I took my time with Garrett and it turned out to be the wrong decision. So if I have learned anything from that experience, it is that time means nothing. If somebody has great energy and you like them, you should just go for it without thinking about what other people might say. Garrett and I are perfect on paper, and look how that turned out. So a lot of you guys mentioned that it was too soon for me to actually like somebody because it's just been a year since Garrett and I broke up, but I don't really care. I'm gonna go with my gut this time and see how it works out. Update 4. Hey folks! I can't believe I'm back after almost 4 years and with such great news. But first things first. In my last update almost 4 years ago, I mentioned that Garrett had given up trying to contact me. About 2 years later, when he found out that I was in a relationship with my coworker, he had another breakdown, and he actually showed up at my house in the middle of the night in a drunken scene which woke up all the neighbors. When I tried to tell him to leave, he threw a beer bottle at me, but I dodged it and cursed me out. That was the point where I decided that I had had enough, and I called the police, pressed charges against him, and then got a restraining order against him. I haven't seen him or heard from him since then, and I think he moved away with his family a couple of months later. So that was that, and I'm glad to be rid of him, honestly. I am also glad that he stood me up on my wedding day and walked away from the altar, because now I'm married to the guy who is really my soulmate. About a month ago, I got married to my coworker, but I guess I should call him my husband now. He is everything that I dreamed of, and even though my wedding was much smaller and much more intimate this time around, it was a huge success because the groom didn't run away before the wedding. All jokes aside, I truly got lucky with him, and I hope that we keep making each other laugh and smile throughout the rest of our lives. I couldn't be happier. Now on to the next story. Story 2. My autistic stepdaughter asked to call me Mom, and I was extremely happy. But her biological mother was furious. Later, her older sister reached out, wanting to reconnect with both of us. Okay, so I, 34F, married the man of my dreams, 44M, last month, and he has a 16-year-old daughter from his prior marriage. I've been in her life and she's been in mine for 4 years. I've done my best to be there for her as a friend and a trustworthy adult, and she's a really, really great kid. I felt closer to her than I did any of my sisters, and I could see she looked up to me and trusted me. One more important thing. She's on the autism spectrum. I swear that's relevant. My husband and I went on our honeymoon for 2 weeks, and when we came back on Friday, my stepdaughter came up to me and asked if we could talk. She told me no one had ever been as considerate as I was, learning how to make foods in the exact way she liked them, or as patient with her poor emotional regulation. Her words. I think she's doing great. She told me I was overall her favorite person in her life, so she asked if it was okay to call me Mom. This really caught me off guard, and I stopped for a moment to process it. She got embarrassed and told me she was sorry and it was stupid, but I told her it wasn't stupid because I would love that. She got super excited and hugged me, and it was lovely. I was telling my husband about it later, and it suddenly sunk in that I had become somebody's mom. I just stopped and I told him, I'm someone's mom. And he asked me if I felt like I was in the delivery room. Ha! I laughed at that, but I got so emotionally overwhelmed I started crying. This morning she came downstairs and said, Hey Mom, to me. It's gonna take some getting used to, but holy shit, that was a great feeling. I still don't believe I've earned the title, but I'll be damned if I'm not gonna try my damn best. So it seems last month I got a husband and a daughter, too. Pretty good deal if you ask me. Comments. Comment. OP was learning how to make her daughter's food the way she likes. That line jumped out at me. That she thinks the daughter is the bee's knees, even though the daughter feels insecure about her behavior. Imagine the confidence she will feel and how validated the daughter feels. This brings me joy. OP, The first time I made food for all of us within the first month or two I knew her, I made spaghetti and broke the spaghetti in half. She said she couldn't eat it with it broken in half, then told me she was very sorry and made herself a sandwich. But I told her it was okay and I could make another batch, which I did. I found out later on down the road she cried after I left because she thought she insulted me and ruined her dad's relationship with me. Specific food preferences? Sure, it was a little strange at first, but hey, I'm sure we've all asked a waiter or waitress for something very specific at least once in our lives. Update 1, March 18, 2024. So I recently made a post talking about how my stepdaughter asked to call me Mom, and it made me really happy. My husband has 2 children from his previous marriage, a 16-year-old autistic daughter and a 26-year-old daughter. When they divorced, his ex-wife advocated for custody of the older daughter. Sounds like it was because she was more independent and less work, and he got the youngest one. As a result, his younger daughter always felt kind of unloved by her mom and doesn't go too far out of her way to talk to her. The older daughter finally got a job in her field that she's been fighting for a few years, and she wanted to have a dinner with the family. She seems like a nice girl from the times I've interacted with her, but her mom seems passive-aggressive and unkind. We all got to the restaurant and sat down, and it was pretty nice and civil. I was sitting next to my stepdaughter, and she was a little overwhelmed because she hadn't been to the restaurant before and didn't know what to order. So we were looking at the menu, and I pointed out a type of pasta that looks similar to something we make at home that she likes. She said, "Thanks, Mom." I guess she said it loud enough that her biological mom heard, because she literally stopped everything and asked, "What did you just say?" My husband and I tried to defuse the situation, but she was very agitated by it and actually asked why she did it. Their older daughter stepped in and asked if she could tell her mom about her new job, and that got her to move on finally. My stepdaughter didn't say much for the rest of the evening, but on the way home she tried to apologize for ruining the evening, to which we told her she didn't. Then, if this wasn't bad enough, both she and my husband received a 4-paragraph-long message talking about how disrespectful and egregious it was that she called another woman Mom, and how she was very disturbed by it. My husband is just in disbelief and feels horrible for our daughter. He went to talk to her and she didn't say much, but she clearly thinks this is all her fault. If anything, it's my fault for not discussing how she should refer to me at the dinner with my husband, and then discussing it with her beforehand. I just hate that this woman is upsetting her so much, and I see why my husband divorced her. Thank you for reading. Comments. Comment 1. Does the ex spend time with her autistic daughter at all? If not, I'm not sure why she'd be surprised. P. She sees her on holidays and family gatherings, that's really it. Apparently her mother is entitled to that respect just for existing. Comment 2. I know it's not the same, but I was called Mom at work. Oh. I don't have children, but apparently I exude mothership. Hopefully not in a bad way. The ex-wife is a real piece of work. It's nice that you took on taking care of a special needs child. It is no small feat and you are deserving of the title of Mom. Pete, definitely. I have no sympathy for a woman who demands to be called Mom while putting in no effort to be a mom, or a man who demands to be called Dad. Also, I just want to say, yeah, she technically is a special needs child, but she's very capable. She has been looking to apply for an after-school job and has started thinking about college. And she does struggle with emotional regulation and has very specific preferences for things. She's no different from the rest of us. Comment 3. That poor girl. If her mom acted like a mom, then it wouldn't have happened. Her actions or lack of consequences. I'm not sure if she has a therapist, but it might help explain things in a way she gets and from a professional. The biggest thing I would be worried about now is if her mom keeps sending things to her or making her feel guilty about more things. P. She does have a therapist who she meets with weekly. I'm sure my husband's ex-wife is going to come up tomorrow. Comment 4. How long since the bio mother gave away her 16-year-old daughter's custody? How much time does she spend parenting her? How have they bonded? She would have some nerve to be angry that a child she is not parenting as much as you calls you Mom. You seem to be a very sweet parent to her. Keep it up. OP. Since elementary school. On holidays and family gatherings by awkwardly asking how they've been doing since last Thanksgiving. My husband got custody of the young autistic child and learned how to make foods exactly the way she needed them to be. Learned how to speak her language, as he calls it, and single-handedly raise a still-developing child. Then his ex-wife got custody of the high schooler who could be left alone at home and make her own food so she could work and do her own thing without having to worry about anyone or anything. Update 2. Last week, I made a post about how my husband and my autistic 16-year-old stepdaughter went to dinner with his ex-wife and their oldest daughter, 26, to celebrate her getting a job she's been chasing her whole adult life. Then my stepdaughter called me Mom at one point. Ex-wife got pissed and stopped the whole table to make a point, and the rest of the evening wasn't great. Then, when we got home, both my husband and stepdaughter got a big text message from her talking about how disrespectful that was. So the day after the incident, my stepdaughter came over to me and told me her older sister texted her and asked if she could read the text out loud. I just nodded and said, definitely. But on the inside my eyes rolled to the back of my head, like, Jesus Christ, here we go. However, her sister sent her a very, very lovely and thoughtful message saying she felt bad about what happened the night before and was sorry the two of them haven't been talking much lately, and asked if she wanted to try to be sisters again. Then she said she asked her what movies she's seen lately, and movies are her special interest, so that meant a lot. She asked, not going to lie, I was caught off guard by her sincerity and kindness. It was very sweet. Then later that day I got a text message from her older sister, whom I assumed got my number from my younger stepdaughter, and said she wanted to get to know me better since I am legally her stepmom now, and I'm the woman her baby sister is calling mom. So she definitely wanted to try to get to know each other. She also mentioned that she didn't get to celebrate her sister's 16th birthday with her and felt that was a really big deal, and asked if the three of us could get dinner and see a movie tonight. The three of us went out and saw a movie and got dinner by ourselves. My younger stepdaughter picked the movie and she loved it, but my older stepdaughter and I didn't get it, but all that matters is that she liked it. Then we sat down and had dinner together and had a very nice time. Then, on the way out, my younger stepdaughter asked if she could run into the store next to the restaurant to buy something really quick. In and out, so we said, all right. While she was in the store, my older stepdaughter told me she wanted me to know she misjudged me, and watching the two of us interact, both at the dinner the other night and tonight, me going through the menu with her to find something she'd like, me advocating for her when their mother got upset, and how she clearly feels comfortable talking around her, that she completely understands why I'm now mom to her. All in all, a pretty great night. After I got home, I saw she sent me a text related to something we talked about, so it looks like we're going to be talking now. Still got some stuff to work out with her biological mom, but we'll take this as a victory. Anyway, yeah, I just figured I'd share something positive since there's a lot of negativity on Reddit and with my current situation. So I figured I'd share a positive update. Comments. Comment 1. Oh, I read the last post when it happened. I'm so happy about this development. I'm so happy your daughter is being supported by her older sister and your family feels like it grew a bit more. Congrats and thanks for the wholesome update. OP. Yeah, it made me really happy to hear they were talking again. I left this out in the post, but I remember a few months ago my younger stepdaughter was trying to tell her sister about a movie she saw that meant a lot to her, and her older sister was being very sarcastic and snarky about it to get her goat, and she actually started crying. So I think it's great they're getting along. Comment 2. This is such a sweet story. My mom kind of dropped me off to my dad and stepmom when I was 12 to run off with a guy to Spain. My stepmom has been in my life since I was 4, and I remember both of us trying not to cry when I approached her about calling her mom. Shout out to all the stepmoms out there going out of their way to make the kids feel loved. It helps more than you know. Comment 3. My dad is my mom's second husband and our stepdad. They divorced when my sister and I were in college, but we decided that our dad will always be our dad. He met us when we were 6 and 4 years old, and we've lived with him since we were 8 and 6. We've had our dad in our lives longer than our bio-dad has been in active contact with us. We got the short end of the stick, unfortunately, with our bio-parents, as they both have significant mental illness and like to use us as pawns in their weird, hateful games. But our dad chose to show up for us every day and loves us with no strings attached. Sometimes the universe gifts us with very special people. It's good to acknowledge them with the titles they have earned, like Mom and Dad. Now on to the next story. Story 3. My husband bought me a designer purse I'd been saving up for months as my Christmas gift. But when his teenage daughter saw it, she begged him until he gave her my purse. My husband, 41M, is the worst at gift giving. We have been together for over 3 years, and after the first year of not receiving anything for my birthday, anniversary, Christmas, or Valentine's Day, Mother's Day was the last straw. After being told I wasn't his mother, I decided to start matching energy. Father's Day came and I was gone all day. Normally, I would have put together a big lunch/dinner and driven 30 to 45 minutes to go get his now 16-year-old daughter so they could spend the day together. He called me in the afternoon, and I was polite but not initiating conversation. He asked me when I was picking up his daughter, and I replied that I had plans and wasn't aware that I was supposed to pick her up since nothing was communicated to me. When he responded with, "It's Father's Day," I used his response back, "You're not my father." I had anticipated him getting upset and knew a constructive conversation would not be had. So when he started to raise his voice, I told him, "Check the table," and hung up. I had left a letter to him communicating how much was heard about going out of my way for him and not having any sort of reciprocation. He called me later and said he would try to be better and work on it. I ended up going to get his daughter during the week so they could enjoy a dinner together. Background info: he drives big rig trucks, so the vehicle we use for everyday travel is mine. He's been better about the gifts. It's more of go pick something out and I will pay for it, which I really don't mind. He does the same thing with his daughter. I do all the shopping for his family's gifts when it comes to birthdays and holidays. Cut to a week before Christmas, and I wake up to my favorite coffee drink and my husband taking me out to eat for breakfast, followed by a trip to the mall to pick out my Christmas gift. I rarely splurge on myself when it comes to purses and clothes. I have a son from my first marriage, so I tend to be more practical on myself and spend on him for his birthday and Christmas. My stepdaughter, however, is very materialistic and always asking for money or something expensive. In between her father and his family and her mother and her family and her stepfather, she always gets it. I had been repeatedly saying out loud that I needed a new purse since mine was hanging on by a thread, and had decided to invest in a good designer handbag. I started saving money and looking online for my new dream purse. So imagine my surprise and excitement when we get to the department store, and I see they have my dream purse in stock. My husband sort of gave a look when he saw the price, and I told him I could contribute and explained how I had been saving so I could save enough to get this purse that I had been dreaming about for months. He shook his head and said I deserved it and he would get it for me, but also gave me the expectation that since he was getting me this, he really couldn't afford to get me anything else. I screamed with delight and told him that was okay and I didn't need anything else. With that taken care of, my husband asked me if it was okay to go get his daughter and take her Christmas shopping. I had tons to do at home in preparation for the holiday, so this worked out so I could have the house empty to get what I needed done. I was reaching to get my new purse when we arrived home, and he said for me to leave it because he had another gift he had previously purchased for me that he was going to put inside the purse for me to open on Christmas. I was on cloud 9, so I kissed him and left my bag and went inside. I was still busy cleaning and decorating when he got home later that night, and the rest of the days before Christmas were all a blur with me, trying to get my house ready for the holiday. I hosted Christmas Eve at my house with my family, and Christmas Day I slept in, tired from the night before, and woke up with enough time to brush my teeth before we headed out to go get his daughter, then drive to spend the day at his mother's house. I fell asleep on the drive and woke up after his daughter was picked up and we were already en route to his mom's. I turned around to greet his daughter, and that's when I saw her rummaging and holding my new purse. "Where did you get that purse?" I asked her, and the car fell completely silent. I looked at my husband, and he stayed silent with both hands on the wheel, looking straight ahead. I asked her again, this time in a louder, more stern tone. She looked down and quietly mumbled, "My dad gave it to me." "You what?" I screamed. "How would you think it was okay to give her my new purse?" He told me to calm down, and I cut him off and screamed, "No!" and then turned back to his daughter and told her that her father had no right to give her my purse and that she needed to give it back, to which she refused. I could feel my anger raging, then subsiding to a feeling of sadness and complete defeat. I put my coat over my head and leaned against the window, trying to cover my face and mouth as tears started running down my cheeks. My husband pulled over at the next gas station, and his daughter bolted out, taking the purse with her. He tried to comfort me, to which I slapped his hand away and told him not to touch me and gave him a look of disgust. He informed me that after he dropped me off that day, he picked up his daughter, took her shopping, and on the way taking her home, she noticed the bag and saw the purse. She begged and pleaded with him to please let her have it. She reminded him about all the times he never got her a gift and how giving her this purse would make up for it, and that played on his heart, and he finally caved and gave her my purse. He tried to say he was going to make it up to me, and I asked him how, knowing it was impossible. He already spent his money and made it clear that he wasn't going to have money to buy me anything else. I couldn't help but get upset as I tried to get him to understand how hurt I felt and how it's not like she was suffering, with her getting to open presents from her mother and stepfather, plus gifts from their family, along with the gifts she was going to get from his family, and that he already spent money on her for her Christmas presents, and that was my one gift. I know Christmas is not about getting presents, but I was extremely upset that my husband could be so thoughtless and not consider the amount of pain this was going to cause me. His phone rang, and it was his daughter calling from inside asking him to come inside because she needed money to buy something. As he was walking into the store, I looked back and tears began to fill my eyes as I saw all the gifts I picked out for his family with care. Something came over me, and I stopped crying and got out and got in the driver's seat and wiped my face and peeled out of the gas station parking lot, leaving my husband and stepdaughter behind. I turned my phone off and drove back to town and spent the day with my family at my cousin's house and stayed with them, not returning any of my husband's phone calls and not returning home until late the following day. The only phone call I did return was the one for my stepdaughter's mother to set her straight after she left me a hateful message about leaving her daughter stranded because I was jealous her father bought her a new purse. I told her she had been told a lie and informed her of the truth, that in fact her father did not buy her a new purse, he bought me a new purse, and she played on her father's emotions after he had already bought her expensive items from her Christmas list to guilt him into giving her my purse. She apologized and tried to come up with a solution, to which I replied for her not to bother. The damage has been done. I found out through my SIL that my husband's brother went to go get them, and the story came out later that evening. His mother is on his side while his brother and SIL and other aunts and uncles sided with me and got on to his daughter. I have not spoken to his daughter since Christmas, and things are unsettling at home. I have become more distant from my husband, and when I make dinner, I don't serve him a plate. I serve only my son and myself, and I only engage in conversation with my son. He's tried to reach for me at night when we are in bed, and I always end up crying. I am not angry or mad. I just feel nothingness. He's back on the road, and I do miss him, but I can't shake the feeling of how he let me down, and I cannot hide my looks of disappointment, looking to see what others have to say about the situation. Update: January 30th, 2025. I did not expect this to blow up like it did. Thank you to everyone who reached out. I meant to come back and update sooner, my apologies. I wanted to clear up some things and defend myself on not being as pathetic as some made me out to be. 1. I did not pay for the purse. I offered, but he paid the full amount. 2. He technically pays for the gifts for his family for Christmas. We have an account that he puts money on, and this is what is used to pay the bills and other expenses, along with gifts for his family for birthdays and other special occasions. I am the one who actually shops for the gifts, and I make it personal for each person and do all the wrapping and such an add-on from my budget what I feel is needed. 3. This had gotten erased when I was first posting trying to edit, but it is a key factor. When I confronted my stepdaughter about returning the purse, she wasn't saying anything. She was refusing by shaking her head no, and her father yelled her name, and that is when she dropped the bomb on us that she had already written her name in it. She wrote her name in big, black permanent marker on the inside of the purse, so that is when my rage just turned into defeat because the purse became worthless to me, hence my getting emotional. 4. For people questioning on why I react now when I had to have known about him not giving gifts from early on in the relationship. After attending family events with him, I noticed right away he never had a gift to give, so when it came to my birthday or Valentine's Day or any special occasion, I would take initiative to drive us to wherever I wanted my gift from so he could purchase it. As we got more serious, my gifts became trips that I planned and he paid for, so this wasn't going to be my first time getting a gift, but it was going to be my first time having an actual gift under the tree. 5. I introduced one of my really good friends to his brother, and she is now my sister-in-law and my ally and my source. We met for lunch a week after the new year to exchange gifts. She informed me that after they arrived at his mom's, my husband didn't want to talk about what happened. My stepdaughter likes to show off her gifts as most teenagers do, and while they were gathered on the table trying to talk to my husband, she approached and was interrupting and trying to get everyone's attention on her and her new purse and other gifts. Sel said the table fell silent and there were looks between family members, and then chaos yelling about how my husband arrived empty-handed and aunts and uncles were yelling at him asking how he could get his daughter such an expensive purse and not get his mother anything. That's when he broke and loudly responded he didn't get his daughter the purse. He got me the purse. His daughter just took the purse. His daughter got upset for being outed and reprimanded by other family members and called her mom to get her. 6. By the time her mother arrived, I had already spoken to her about what happened. She went inside to talk to her father because the story she was getting from her daughter was obviously different. It was basically the same story. He took her shopping and on the way back, she saw the department store bag and looked inside and saw the purse, started begging for it, then started to guilt-trip him to give it to her. He told her no and spoke to her about being ungrateful and selfish. She then tried to get him to take her to a friend's house instead of home, which caused another argument because she is grounded due to failing classes, and she knows that she's not allowed to go anywhere. At drop-off, she just grabbed her bags and exited the car and slamming the door. When he got back to the house, he reached behind the seat to get the bag and noticed it was empty and realized she took the purse anyway. He called her, but she didn't answer, and he left a message that she better be ready to give up the purse on Christmas. 7. Her mother had called him and yelled at him for getting her such an expensive purse when she is failing classes, and instead of explaining what happened, he just responded that she had no idea what she was talking about and hung up the phone. Her writing her name in the purse was a shock to him, and that's what caused him to pull over at the next gas station. He didn't want me more upset with her, so he opted not to tell me that she stole it and just took blame. 8. The other gift that he was going to put in the purse? Lingerie. It was in a small gift bag on my side of the bed. He was upset when I sent our pit bull, Chico, downstairs wearing a red nightie. Some comments had the misconception that the purse was going to be the first gift he ever gave me, and I wanted to clarify that is not true. I posted about him not getting me a gift on my birthday and Christmas and other occasions. This occurred our first year of marriage. I planned a dinner for my birthday that included my parents and my siblings, close friends, and family. My husband arrived empty-handed and over an hour and a half late due to him staying late at work. I kept quiet because I didn't want a scene and have more attention drawn to him about not getting me anything and being so late. This is the same reason I cut him off when he looked around at my gifts and flowers from my guests and started saying, "Man, I feel so bad for not getting you." That weekend, I woke up to flowers and chocolates sprinkled all over the bed and being taken to breakfast and my husband asking what I still had on my wish list for my birthday so we could go get it. On our first anniversary, I set up a table outside with candles and hung up white lights and was preparing beef Wellington and had a bottle of champagne and chocolate-covered strawberries. That morning, I woke him up saying, "Happy anniversary," and kissing him and told him I have a surprise planned for later. He called me when he should have already been home stating that he picked up an extra load and was excited about how much extra the pay was going to be. We used the extra pay from this and from other extra loads he picked up that coincidentally coincided with special occasions and holidays to go to Hawaii. It wasn't until I stopped planning something for him for Father's Day that he started making an effort on getting gifts ahead of time and remembering special occasions. When my husband got home from being on the road, he took my son and I to eat at a steakhouse and handed each of us a gift bag. Inside were brand new AirPods. At first, my son was confused because he didn't have an iPhone. Then came the second surprise that after we finished eating, we were heading to AT&T to get both of us new phones. I haven't really spoken to his daughter but was told that her failing classes and sneaking out has caused a strain on her relationship with her mother. I am not looking for pity or sympathy, and I am not a doormat, and my husband is not a heartless monster. I am in a much better frame of mind now than I was then. Thank you for taking the time to hear me. Now on to the next story. Story 4. My sister's friend made up a story about me getting her pregnant, then asked for money and refused a paternity test. I found out she was baby-trapping men, so I told her parents everything. For the past 3 days, my sister's best friend, let's call her Millie, 20F, has been telling everybody that I, 27M, got her pregnant. She's 6 weeks along now, and she's been asking me to contribute financially because she's not stable enough to support herself and the baby. I've been refusing. It's all a bunch of baloney. I haven't even met the woman personally, ever. But for some reason, my sister believes her wholeheartedly. She's in college right now. Millie is her roommate, and they are very close. I have heard about Millie and seen her a couple of times when my sister would come back home for the holidays and stuff, and she would occasionally FaceTime with Millie at certain points of the day, but that was as far as our interactions went. To get her pregnant, I would have to talk to her personally and meet her, and none of that has ever happened. But 3 days back, she just randomly put up an Instagram post accusing me of getting her pregnant and refusing to accept my role as a father, and she put up pictures of positive pregnancy tests along with it. I had no idea how to react to that, and my sister, just a couple of minutes after the post was put up, started calling and texting me, and she was pretty angry. She was telling me that if I did not help Millie out, she would tell our parents everything and make sure that they never spoke to me again. I tried to convince her that I had no part in this and hadn't even met her, but apparently, Millie had planted this idea in her head that I had reached out to her over Instagram, flown in a couple of times to see her secretly, and hooked up with her several times. But now, after she found out about the pregnancy and decided to keep the baby, I've been ghosting her and unsent all my previous messages and removed her to make it seem like I was never involved with her. It's obviously a ridiculous story that Millie has made up, but my sister believes it, even though there is literally no proof of any of this. It's just her word against mine, and I even suggested that maybe she should get a paternity test, and she's refusing that as well, saying that it's an insult to her dignity. Obviously, I know that she's lying, but my sister is being totally weird about it, and I've had to block her because she was acting so strange as if I was the enemy here and kept saying that she was going to tell our parents, which would create a lot more drama. Anyway, this morning I received a text on Instagram from some guy, let's call him Daniel, who claimed to be Millie's ex. At first, I didn't believe him, and I didn't even want to talk to him because he seemed to have something to do with Millie, and I wanted to stay away from that situation altogether. But then he sent me a bunch of pictures with her just to make it clear that he was not lying about anything, and then he told me that he actually wanted to help me. I was not in a position to reject help from anyone because my sister had given me until the end of the week to do something about the situation. And if I didn't do something, she would take this up with our parents. Even though I'm not scared of them, it would just be a lot of unnecessary trouble for me. So I spoke to the guy and I was taking a huge risk, but it paid off because he told me that she was basically just trying to baby trap me. Exactly what she had tried to do to him a few weeks ago. They had broken up after 6 years of being together since she had hooked up with some guy from a dating app, and a few weeks later, she found out that she was pregnant. So she suggested marriage to him, but he had just started out with his career, so he said no, and she started pressuring him to propose to her, even saying that she was pregnant with his baby and she intended on keeping it, so he had to marry her at some point and step up as a family man. Luckily for him, he found out from a couple of friends that she had been using a dating app, put the dots together, and ended up breaking up with her. Right now, nobody knows who actually got her pregnant. It was that guy from the dating app or her ex. The guy whom she had met on the dating app happened to be here on vacation, so he was already gone, and Daniel had broken up with her. So now he suspected that, with nobody else to turn to, she was trying to trap me, and she was obviously pretty desperate because this plan was definitely not going to work. Daniel's guess was that she had picked me because I'm at a pretty stable place in my career, I earn well enough for my age, and of course I'm her best friend's brother, so she knows that I'm not a terrible guy. In fact, I found out from Daniel that she actually used to find me very cute and had spoken about me multiple times to him. So it's not surprising that she has picked me to harass. But of course, I was very upset after finding out all of this, and that's why I asked Daniel for her parents' contact info since they had met a couple of times. Then, earlier this evening, I contacted her parents and told them everything, all about the situation that she had created, and didn't spare any details. I knew that her parents were slightly conservative. Daniel and my sister had told me about it, so I knew that they would be shocked. They had only let her go to college out of state because they trusted Daniel and they knew that he was going to be around. They had no idea that the two of them had broken up, that she had been cheating on him and the whole situation with me. So when I told them about all of it, they apologized and then they hung up. For a few hours, I didn't hear anything from anyone, but then my sister started blowing up my phone from an alternate account, telling me that I had ruined Millie's life because her parents were now demanding that she either come back to them right away, drop out of college, or they would stop funding her education, and she would have to do that anyway, or she could spend the rest of her life without the support of her parents. I think it's pretty fair. Daniel was still attached to her emotionally, so he couldn't bring himself to hurt her, but I don't care about this girl, so I did whatever I thought was right. I knew that her parents would demand exactly something like this, so I did what I had to. I don't understand how I'm the bad guy here, but my sister is claiming that I've ruined somebody's life and saying that I'm a misogynist because now she won't be able to study the way she wants to anymore and that I should have just been civil about it and had a discussion with them instead of going out of my way to be a jerk. I think that's all ridiculous. But anyway, am I the jerk for tattling? Update 1. Hi, thanks for all the comments. It's been a week since I posted, and recently, I decided to speak to my parents about the whole situation myself. My sister has been blocked ever since she started believing in Millie, but I know that sooner or later she will probably reach out to our parents and get them involved. My parents are a bit old-fashioned. That's why I hadn't wanted them to find out about stuff like this because it would have upset them even if it wasn't true. There's just no need for them to know. That had been my intention. But now I think things have gotten way out of hand because even after finding out that everything that Millie had been telling her was a lie, my sister still seems to be on her side. I don't understand what's wrong with her, but I know that this is seriously messed up. To go to the extent of contacting me from another account just to accuse me of ruining Millie's life and stuff when that's the exact kind of thing that she was trying to do to me? It's insane. So I spoke to my parents and told them everything, and they were shocked. Firstly, because they had no idea that things like this had been happening in their kids' lives, and even more so, my sister had turned out to be like this because we were actually pretty close. Even I'm pretty upset about that because in spite of our age difference, she and I really were very close. I don't know what went wrong. I don't know what Millie said or did, but now she seems completely brainwashed by that girl. So much so that she is supporting her even when she's wrong and going against her own brother and family. It sucks. And when I told my parents, they told me that they were going to try and talk to her because this kind of behavior was just unacceptable. My parents were paying for her to go to college as well, and they have told her that if she doesn't apologize to me and cut ties with Millie, then they will be forced to do exactly what Millie's parents did. And by that, I mean that they would have to withdraw the college fund that they had put aside for my sister, and she would have to figure out a way to pay for college herself. I feel bad knowing that this is going to happen to her as well, but honestly, I don't see any other way out of this. And apologize she has to, because her behavior, it's been really bad. I don't know if I will forgive her, but at least symbolically, even if she doesn't mean it, I think she must apologize. I also think it's very fair for my parents to ask her to cut Millie off because it's obvious that she's not a good influence on my sister. And actually, I think that's an understatement because if that girl can get my sister to support things like baby trapping, then who knows, maybe she will go on and support paternity fraud as well because I don't think Millie is too far off from committing the crime just to get her way. A lot of people in the comments were asking about why exactly she was trying to get somebody to commit to her and marry her instead of just terminating the pregnancy, which would make everything easier. And I think that's exactly why. Millie seems to be under the misconception that if she gets married to somebody, life will become easier for her because her parents will stop trying to control her, and she will also have access to her husband's money, aka my money. It's a crazy, desperate plan, and I can't imagine how controlling her parents actually must be for her to go to these lengths. But at the end of the day, it's wrong. Everybody has problems in their life, but not everybody jumps to the first most awful thing that they can do to get themselves out of sticky situations. I have no respect for people like Millie, to be honest. I might have sympathized with her if she had tried to deal with her situation in a more dignified manner. But what she's doing, it's disgusting, and I think whatever her parents are threatening her with, she totally deserves it. And so does my sister. Update 2. So 2 days ago, I told my parents everything about what had been going on with me and my sister, and earlier today, I went over to my parents' house because they were planning on calling her and speaking to her today. I wasn't going to say anything to her, and I didn't even want to. The last interaction that I had with her was when she had texted me from that other account just to let me know about the consequences Millie was going to face from her parents for doing all this, and instead of apologizing to me after she found out the truth, she was making me out to be the villain just because I told Millie's parents what she was up to. After that, I blocked that other account as well, and she didn't try to contact me either. I know she's not sorry about anything, but I still went over to my parents' place because I wanted to see how she would react to any of this. I just sat there silently in the room when they called her, and when she picked up, she seemed perfectly normal, as if everything was fine. But then my parents started talking about the situation. They told her that I had told them everything just a couple of days ago, and they wanted an explanation as to what she was doing because they thought that she was being ridiculous and that she owed me an apology. On the other end, she went silent for a couple of minutes, and then she said that she couldn't believe that I had tattled to them as well and called me an immature idiot. She didn't know that I was in the room, and I think my parents were about to tell her. But I stopped because I wanted to see what she was going to say when she thought that I was not there. She went on and told our parents that Millie might have been lying, but it was just because she was really desperate and she knew that if her parents were to find out that she had gotten pregnant before marriage, they were going to force her to drop out and come back anyway. It had been difficult enough to convince them to let her go to college out of state, and even then, they had only agreed because they thought that Daniel was going to be with her. But now she was all knocked up. She didn't even know who the real father was, and she was too scared to find out, so she didn't even want to get a paternity test. Neither could she terminate the pregnancy because she's totally financially relying on her parents. She would have to ask them for the money, which would lead to questions, and she was scared of that. And instead of being with her and supporting her through this, Daniel decided to break up with her. From her tone, I could tell that my sister thought that Millie was the victim here and Daniel was the bad guy for letting her down or whatever. It's crazy that she actually thought that Millie was the victim when in reality, the only reason Daniel had broken up with her was because she had cheated. If she had been faithful to him, then he might have agreed to marry her because the baby could have only been his, but she literally cheated on him, and God knows how many times that might have happened before. So why would anybody even trust her? Anyway, I think this is how normal people would think about the situation, but for some reason, my sister was convinced that Millie was the biggest victim here. But my parents were not having it. They knew the entire situation, including the bit where Millie had cheated, and they also tried to tell my sister that she was wrong. There was no way that she could be serious about claiming that Millie was the victim here, and that's why she had been desperate enough to try what she did. Even if she had been desperate, she could have just asked for help instead of accusing me and trying to ruin my reputation and trapping me into a marriage or something like that. It was not just a stupid plan, it was also reckless and crazy and ruined everybody's reputation involved, even Millie's own, because she still got painted as a cheater since everybody else had believed that she was with Daniel. My parents were being totally logical about the whole thing. They were not screaming at her about anything. They were just trying to reason with her. But the instant she realized that they were not buying the whole victim act, she started yelling at them, telling them that they always treated me better than her, that I was their golden son and stuff like that, which is obviously not true at all. She just refused to see their point at all, that Millie had messed up. If she needed help financially, she could have gone about it a much better way instead of acting crazy. It didn't make any sense for her to accuse me of something that I hadn't done just because she was desperate to have her parents stop controlling her. But my sister was not hearing any of it. She just kept screaming at my parents until they lost their temper as well. They told her that they had given her a fair chance to acknowledge the fact that she had made a mistake, but now they were giving her an ultimatum, and now she could either apologize to me and cut Millie out of her life or they would stop paying for her tuition. My sister immediately started screaming even louder on the phone, saying that she knew that I had suggested this to them, that I was bent on ruining her life and stuff. That's when I decided to speak up, and I told her that I was not the one who had suggested this. My parents had decided this on their own. The only thing that she had to do was acknowledge the fact that she had made a mistake, and then she wouldn't have had to go through any of this. But for some reason, this girl has become more important to her than anything else, be it her brother, her family, and now even her education. She started cussing me out when she realized that I was in the room, and I got really upset, so I told her that since she was so enthusiastic about her friendship with Millie, they could now both be college dropouts together because clearly they really do deserve each other. She probably had a lot more to say, but after that, my parents hung up the phone and blocked her number because they really didn't want to talk to her at the moment. All of us are very worked up, and it was insane that even after knowing the whole truth and the logical arguments against Millie, my sister was still supporting her. To be honest, earlier, I had been having second thoughts about my decision to tell her parents, but now I think I did the right thing. No matter how controlling they are, I think Millie deserves people like that in her life because she's obviously not a very good person. It's just crazy, and I really don't understand how my sister turned out to be like this. She used to be a pretty normal person, but I guess this Millie girl has really done a number on her. It's pretty disappointing, but there is not much that we can do right now. My parents and I have accepted that. I just hope that with time, she comes to her senses, because otherwise, she's just going to be ruining her own future. I don't care about what Millie does, but I really don't want my sister to end up in the same boat. It's really frustrating that she's doing this to herself because she had the perfect opportunity today to apologize to everyone and make things right, but she really blew it. And the accusations that she was coming at our parents with were not even true. So if my parents were upset before, they are even more upset now, and after the phone call, they were considering not funding her at all, even if she decided to apologize. That's going to be pretty bad news for her because now she's either going to have to take out a student loan or have to start working if she wants to continue studying. It's sad because she's a bright kid, always has been, and she's just blowing it all up for the sake of this new girl. It's sad. Update 3. Hi. So it's been 2 weeks since my last update, and since then, neither my parents nor I have had any contact with my sister at all. After that phone call, she did not try to reach out to us even though my parents did unblock her. When a couple of days passed and she did not contact them, they blocked her again, and they were very upset with her. But then 2 days ago, she showed up at my parents' place on the weekend to talk to them. My parents, though, made it very clear to her that they were not going to talk to her unless she apologized to me first. They even said that they were going to call me over and she could do it in person, but she said that she was not apologizing to me because apparently I had ruined Millie's life. She had to leave college a couple of days after I made that phone call to her parents and had to go back to them. Since then, she hasn't heard from the girl. She doesn't even know if she's right, and she doesn't even know if she's ever going to get back to college to finish her degree. My sister actually started crying, saying that I was a misogynist who did not care about anybody apart from myself, and even if Millie had been lying and I found out about it, I should have spoken to her and tried to get to the bottom of why she was doing this instead of being so vindictive and taking it up with her parents, knowing that it could ruin her life. I don't understand how this is a feminist issue all of a sudden. Her parents don't trust her and want to control every aspect of her life? That's terrible, I get it, and women shouldn't have to go through any of this. I also accept that, and I'm a huge feminist myself, but in this situation, I'm sorry, but I don't think feminism has anything to do with it because she literally tried to ruin my life and I just retaliated. Also, why would I try to understand where this was coming from? I haven't ever met the woman and yet she started lying about me, and it's not like we were friends at any point. So if she didn't care about what became of me, why would I care about her? It was just ridiculous. So obviously, my parents did not have any sympathy to spare for either my sister or Millie. While she was crying at their doorstep, they told her that she could cry all that she wanted to, but at the end of the day, she could either apologize to me and try to make things right with me, and only then would she be allowed inside the house, or she could just go back to college and figure out a way for herself. After this, my sister threw a fit right on their porch, screaming at the top of her lungs at our parents. Once again, she accused them of favoritism, being biased against her, being heartless and trying to put her down and stuff. But my parents didn't care at all. The second she started screaming, they just shut the door in her face. And then she started banging on the door, so they told her that if she didn't leave within 1 minute, they would call the cops and then they would deal with her. So she cussed them out as well, but a few seconds later, probably out of fear of cops, she left. That night, they called me up to let me know what had happened, and I was actually happy with the way they had dealt with the situation. But then the next morning she showed up again, and this time she was a lot more apologetic, only towards my parents though. She still didn't want to apologize to me and kept telling our parents that she was ready to do whatever it took to get them back on her side again. Just not apologizing to me because she didn't think that I deserved it after what I had done to Millie. This time though, my parents just told her that they didn't want her to apologize to me anymore because they had made up their minds. They were cutting her off now because she had caused a lot of trauma, and she was clearly not the person that we all thought she had been. This Millie person, whoever she was clearly more important to my sister than anybody else, even her own education, and I had been right to tell her that now the two of them could be college dropouts together. After this, my parents were no longer interested in speaking to her, and neither did she need to apologize to me because clearly, she wasn't going to mean it either. That was when my sister started crying at their doorstep yet again, but my parents told her that she could figure things out on her own now because they were not interested in talking to her or helping her out. Then she walked away and that was it. Right now we don't know what she's doing, but I do hope that she is safe. That's the only thing that I can do right now because honestly, she has shut all of us out and screwed her relationships up, and it's all her own fault. So she should have seen this coming. I do feel kind of sad about how this has all worked out, but I think my parents did the right thing. She's too far gone, and unless she's able to come to the realization that she's messed everything up for herself, there's just no talking to her anymore. Update 4. Hey everyone. It's been 3 weeks since my last update, and today finally we heard back from my sister. She sent us all an email saying that she was back in college and she had managed to convince some of her senior friends, who had already graduated and had jobs, to help her take out a student loan and co-signed it, and that's how she was going to continue her education. Alongside that, she would also be working, and she just wanted to let us know that we had all failed her. She apologized to me, though. She said that maybe she was not completely right, but what I did was still a really terrible thing to do because they ruined somebody since Millie won't be coming back anytime soon. However, that apology now means less than nothing, so I don't know why she even bothered because clearly through her email it was obvious that she had somehow figured out a way to get by on her own, and she was just reaching out to us to make us feel guilty about it. It didn't work. Neither our parents nor I felt particularly bad about what she was going through. She brought it on to herself. I don't think we need to feel bad. Anyway, it's sad how the situation has turned out to be, but we can only move on. My parents and I are still keeping in touch. We are actually meeting more frequently than before because I think this has somehow brought us closer. I was not the golden child before, but I think now I definitely am. I don't know for how long my sister is going to be shunned, but for now, this is the only solution in my opinion. Now on to the next story. Story 5. Dad let my mom abuse me for years. Then, at our family reunion, he told everyone how forgiving cheaters sets a good example. I finally snapped and called him out. My father has always been against any confrontation or arguments. He is extremely passive, refuses to stand up for himself, and avoids any conflict. If someone isn't paying attention while walking and bumps into him, he insists it's his own fault. If his employer messed up his salary, he wouldn't bother fixing it. If a mechanic didn't properly repair his car, he would just accept it as is. This, unfortunately, resulted in a tumultuous childhood with my insanely narcissistic mother. She controlled his every move. She got him to quit his job and be a locked-in stay-at-home dad. She had him do every chore. She insulted him at every step. She cheated on him relentlessly and even brought APs into our home. She enjoyed making his life miserable every day, and he never questioned it. My extended family, God bless them, were there for me so many times as much as they could be. They tried for years to make my father leave, but he never budged. When she would direct her anger onto myself in the form of screaming, insulting, or general demeaning, my father never once found the guts to stand up for me or support me. When I was a kid, if I cried to Dad about something Mom did or said to me, he would sweep it under the rug or just insist I forget about it. Hell, he would even try and justify it. As I grew older, it really set in for me how messed up this was. My mother gladly kicked me out of the house when I was 18, and my father just sat there and looked sullen, didn't say a damn thing. I joined the Air Force almost immediately and got stationed on the other side of the country. The dynamic was awful, and I could have easily gone down the incel route if not for therapy and the amazing people I met along the way. It took years for me to get in a better mental space. I was filled with hatred. My mother left my father 2 years after I got stationed and utterly destroyed my father in the divorce. She was killed a year later in a DUI with one of her APs. I took a lot of joy in hearing that it took her hours to die, and that's when I really knew I needed help to process things. I'm almost 30 now, have a girlfriend who is perhaps the best thing to ever happen in my life, and fully understands the situation with my family. I have learned to not allow myself to be consumed with anger and resentment by my past, or so I thought, you'll see, and instead put that energy to my future. I have been extraordinarily low contact / near no contact with my father since I left. As much as I try, I cannot make that connection with him. I recently went to a family reunion and brought my girlfriend with me. My father was there, as it was his side of the family. They have many issues with him, but he is family, so whatever, I guess. I made sure to avoid him. I was chatting with my uncles when I heard my father talk in the background. He was discussing how a coworker of his was going through a divorce as he discovered his wife was having an affair and was positioned to have a very favorable divorce on his side. My father remarked how his coworker should work instead to forgive his wife and, by his own words, set a good example for unity and forgiveness, and how he believed he set a great example for me in that extent. I swear it was like a switch went off in my head, and I was mentally back to being the rage-filled 18-year-old. All these years, and he never learned a damn thing. I turned to him and asked if he was fucking serious. He looked at me and started to stutter. I know the next minute was pure word vomit, and I can't relay it perfectly, but to sum it up, I shouted how he was a pathetic father, pathetic man. His family all know he's a disgrace of a human being who would rather his son be treated like shit than defend him because he's a fucking coward. No one would ever see him as an example to live by. His wife would rather fuck half the neighborhood than even touch him, and he should never, ever believe anyone respects him. I began to derail and ramble between my shouting, and my girlfriend quickly took me out and drove me home. It was insane just how quickly being away from him made me feel better. She just held me when we got back and told me, "It's okay." Again, best thing to ever happen to me. I was ashamed of how I lost it, and I'm now going to resume my therapy. That's a given. However, I'm glad I finally unloaded a always needed to be said onto him. Extended family is pretty mixed with reactions. His brother/my uncle said it was time for him to hear it from me. My grandparents are pissed I did that in front of the entire extended family, with some saying I should have done that behind closed doors instead of in front of everyone. Comments where OP has replied. Comment 1. It sounds like you finally got to express the pent-up feelings you've carried for so long. While the outburst wasn't ideal, it seems like it was a necessary step towards healing. It's good you're resuming therapy to process this further. OP. Yeah, afterwards it hit me that although it was very cathartic, it definitely wasn't the most appropriate way to handle it, lol. Comment 2. He sounds like a gentle, kind, and well-meaning person. You directed what is very clearly anger and resentment for your mother at him. It's a bit more complicated than being an asshole or not. You seem to have got some catharsis out of it. I just don't believe he is the one you really wanted to scream at, and from the sounds of it, he was also a victim of your mother, too, and while he was the adult and should have known better, he obviously didn't. Being non-confrontational isn't some character flaw, it's psychological, and he probably needs therapy himself. Screaming at him and demeaning him actually sounds like something your mother probably did/would do, and I worry about you if that is something that actually made you feel better about yourself. OP, yes, I fully admit he was a victim of my mother, but he was a victim who had a support system he never wanted to use. He fully let me be a victim my entire childhood because apparently it was too much effort to try, and to this day doesn't believe he needs therapy. Comment 3. All I can say is based on your post and this interaction, is your anger is deeply misguided and you're failing to recognize the truly horrifying thing you're behaving like the mother you actually should hate. OP. Oh, trust me. I fully hate her as well. But she is gone and there is no use in holding a grudge against a dead person. I had hoped though, after his son making him an outsider in his life, his family openly joking face to face about his failings as a father, and his ex-wife draining him for everything he had and making him start over in a one-bedroom apartment, his friends slowly leaving his life one at a time out of embarrassment, that he would have maybe have at least one moment to reflect and maybe consider he should have done things differently. Update 1. Thanks for the advice and recommendations, even among some of the yada yada. However, some of them needed to be addressed because they were either hilarious or cringeworthy. 1. Some of them were very angry, and they kind of confused me at first until I saw their comments further down or saw their profile and saw rants about double standards or complete nonsense ramblings about women. So yeah, not helpful advice, and they were great dark reflections about how I could have turned out if not for the support in my life. 2. Some attempted to portray my dad as a humble, kind, caring, sensitive old man who I'm just being a big bully to. This was a very good insight into how enablers of abuse get away with so much in today's worlds because so many people forget how they are part of the abuse themselves. 3. Some were attempting to mentally dissect me or have a gotcha moment with me to pull apart my story. That was generally asinine, and I had to step away from those before they asked for my cranial measurements or something. So it was pretty much immediately when I was up the next morning that I realized I needed to resolve the events of last night. I first spoke to my girlfriend and gave a sincere apology for having her see me like that. She reassured me that nothing was wrong. She'd known me for years and has always known me to be level-headed and understands why I kind of snapped. She herself has a history of dealing with narcissistic family, so she absolutely understands the dynamic. She only really told me that it would be best to work on spending time around my extended family since my father will always be there. I told her, "Don't worry, I'm immediately going to talk to them afterwards to figure that out. So that part's fine." I look like kind of an ass in front of her, but I'm making sure that doesn't happen again. I also informed her of my intentions to resume more therapy just to keep myself steady, which she was happy to hear. I called my grandparents and sincerely apologized as well for putting such a sore dent into their family reunion. That it wasn't appropriate, and while I still feel it felt good to say that to him, it should have been privately and not in front of everyone. I also told them that going forward, as much as I love spending time with them, since the family always hangs out in one group that my father will always be in, for now until I can handle being around him, I need to distance myself occasionally until I feel comfortable interacting. I told them that I am nor would I ever be establishing an ultimatum or demands of them, and that either way I need to step back. I guess during my apology and explanation I was kind of just going on a tangent because my grandfather interrupted me to calm down. He told me that after I left, people kind of separated or slowly started leaving, and they eventually were able to talk to my father one-on-one. I guess seeing me have such a freak out resulted in my grandmother having a mini freak out of her own when she started talking to my father, resulting in her kicking him out. While I have a great relationship with both, my grandmother has always been extra protective of me. So seeing me that way must have set off a fire in her. My grandfather then said that it has become a bit of an open family secret. My father's failing. His brothers taught him about it and generally don't have a great relationship with him, and for my grandparents it's always just uneasy, but seeing me the other day and how it still affects me so much has really locked in for a lot of people that it was really bad. They began to try and say sorry if they didn't do enough, which I very adamantly retorted that they did more than what anyone could have expected. It was very emotional for a minute, but culminated in them telling me that they have decided to distance themselves from my father for the time being and have given him the ultimatum that unless he has a deep introspective and regularly goes to therapy, that distance may become permanent. My extended family have been told / are going to try and reach out or call or whatever, but I asked them if they could relay to them that it's not necessary and that I'm fine, and I'm sorry to them as well for ruining the day, which again they told me I shouldn't apologize for being hurt. Since then, extended family have sent some messages with the general consensus that it's okay, with some older members complaining about my lack of respect towards my father. And finally, I texted my father hoping to meet at a local coffee shop and have a final talk. I met him and he didn't look good. I think his parents tearing into him finally got the message through. I had so many things I could have said, but I instead asked him first thing if the coworker he gave the advice to took it well. He just said that neither him nor several coworkers interact with him anymore. I asked him if he truly 100% believes that every single thing he did for me as a child was for my benefit. He didn't really say anything. I then finally asked if he has any regrets for how I was treated as a child and if he thinks he ever did anything wrong. He looked utterly defeated and just mumbled that he could have done more. I could have poked and prodded and could have gone on another rant, but instead I told him this should be goodbye and I hope he gets the help he needs. I think finally unloading my frustrations was what I needed to finally be able to move on and find peace. I absolutely need to keep on track for therapy and admit that a public bitching moment isn't okay. But I should be fine. Update 2. Things have progressed / spiraled very quickly, and I now have broader context about my family. Long story short is there was a lot hidden from me. My father was an absolute shit to his family, and that's why they treat him the way they do. I got a lot of feedback, including the compilation posts, and one thing that stood out was people questioning if my extended family could have contributed to the abuse and that's why he was so feeble, and since I was trying to work on my relationship with my family, I figured it was right to ask the hard questions before going that far. I met with my dad's brothers, who invited me out to a popular lunch spot for context and clarity. Dale is the oldest brother, He is married and has a daughter and a son. My father is the second oldest, self-explanatory. John is the second youngest, also married with a son. Bill as the youngest, married with 3 daughters. So anyways, we met up and I ripped the band-aid off, asking about my father growing up, what he was like beyond the basics I know and what really is going on with their relationship. Dale sighed and basically summed up that besides what I know, there is a lot of backstory I'm unfamiliar with that they never told me about simply because it was never the time nor the place too. What I've always known is that my father was fairly normal when he was young, a little shy but fantastic academically, played sports occasionally, had a close-knit relationship with his brothers, and meeting my mom in high school junior year made everything go downhill. What I didn't know was that my father was a guiding figure for his 2 younger brothers, was generally seen as one of the nicest people with a bright future ahead of him. My grandparents adored him, and he even became a little bit of a golden child. But no one minded. The reason his family doesn't respect him is what happened to his behavior when my mother got attached to him. At first, it started simple. My mother acted rude and distant to the family. They weren't huge fans, but my father loved her, so they tolerated it. She became possessive and slowly isolated my father and convinced him to give up his ambitions and goals. Family became concerned and spent a long time trying to talk to him and convince him to leave. My father didn't budge and began to lash out. When I was born, my extended family tried to talk to my father about my mother's attitude. My father was angry and threatened to report them for harassment. He was in denial about her behavior. When Dale's wife was having fertility issues, my mother messaged her appalling and cruel things. When Dale was pissed and went to talk to my father, he told Dale to drop it and even justified it. Dale punched him and police almost got involved. Dale hated him going forwards. John grew to hate him when my mother insulted his son due to mild physical disabilities. My father cracked a joke about what she said. John hated him. Then finally Bill, who always idolized my father, tried to inform my father that my mother made a pass at him and urged divorce. My father responded with a maddening call of utter hate in relationship-ending words. To sum it all up, the more time my father spent with my mother, the more he began to repeat her attitude. When they saw signs of abuse to me and tried to intervene, my father threatened to lie to accuse them of worse things. My mother had money and lawyers and could make their lives hell if they tried, and my father would gladly let her. They were stuck and could only do so much at a time. The older members of the family, like the grandparents, great-aunts and uncles and such, believe in the traditional mindset of family sticking together no matter what, while the generations further down want to keep a distance from him. They're all stuck between a rock and a hard place. There's more they told me, but it was all essentially that my father died on the hill for my mom, ruining his relationship with his brothers in the process, and when she died and destroyed him, he probably had to realize it was all for nothing. My grandparents seemed to not want to accept the fact that he was lost. Or maybe they hope he can fix his life, who knows. This was a lot to process and was only confirmed by my father himself when he called me to ask about family therapy with us. I cut to the chase and asked if what I heard was true. He said yes. I would have agreed to maybe some family therapy, but now I have no idea. Update 3. I came to the decision that it was time to cut off my father for good. The more I learned about how he was, the more I came to the realization that nothing good would come out of having him in my life. I'm also going to put some minor distance between myself and extended family on his side until I can process things more. There's just a lot of things to work through there. I met up with my father one last time in a coffee shop to talk things over. I asked him one last time why. Why did he do all this? Why did he let his wife treat everyone like shit? Why did he treat his family and me like shit for her? Why did he do all this? He tried to weasel his way out, but I absolutely demanded to know, and he basically answered that it was because he loved her. Yep, it was that stupid of an answer. He loved her and just clung on to her no matter what she did, no matter how much she hurt him or others. He was an insecure man who just latched himself on the first woman who showed him attention, even when she slowly destroyed his life. He thought it was better than trying again. I just got up and told him to fix his life, but I won't be a part of it, and I hope he has the sense to understand why. No matter how he tried to word it, I had 2 abusive parents. He didn't say anything, just stared at me, which leads to last night. I got a call from my grandparents that the night before, My dad tried to call his brothers and make peace. Unfortunately, from what they said, he did it in the most half-assed, avoidant way possible, sparing himself any guilt. That didn't go well after recent events and old wounds being dug up. They gave him a verbal lashing that made mine look microscopic in comparison. My dad hung up and lost his shit, decimated his entire apartment before packing up what was left before driving off. They only found out because one of the brothers came to check up on him. From what they can tell from the few texts they have, he's lost his mind after decades of shit and is driving off to the other side of the country to start fresh. Also, from the minimum communication they have with him, he's acting incredibly vile towards them, and they say he seems to be acting just like my mother. Edit. Things are progressing/spiraling very quickly, and I'm expecting this whole insanity parade to come to a conclusion within a few days at this rate. Won't make any real update until I have all the facts, but I'm just glad I made the decision to move on. Update 4. January 9th, 2025. For those who stuck around, I'd say it's over and about as wrapped up as can be. My girlfriend/fiancé and I are getting married later this year. My father is alive. He lost his shit and spiraled, but a couple weeks later came back. His apartment obviously barred him from coming back and are going after him for legal and financial damages. He has no job anymore. He is staying with my grandparents. He has hit the absolute lowest point and has finally taken responsibility for his life, his choices, and his damaged relationships. It's too late for a lot of the family, but his parents are seemingly giving some help since he's finally trying to fix things. However, the extended family as a whole has kind of blown up. My father kind of became a mascot for deeper family issues that have become worse over time. There are far too many to go over. When he finally got called out, everyone figured there was no use in ignoring everything else going on. Minor feuds have formed, some people aren't talking to each other, some have entered marriage counseling and family therapy. People don't want to live by the family lifestyle anymore. My fiancé and I have decided to distance ourselves. We were kind of disappointed seeing how my side of the family is insanely toxic. We could lean on mine, but I've come to realize mine has far too many issues to be reliable. We have a fantastic group of friends, so we will be fine, and that's about it. I'm going to be wrapping this up and moving on to a far less bitter lifestyle. I'll stick around for a little longer to elaborate on anything if anyone wants. Now on to the next story. Story 6. My husband refused to support me during my depression and said he didn't love me anymore. We got separated and I met his coworker who loved me, but now my ex is acting strange. I, 36F, am married, 37M, for over a decade. Some months ago, I got diagnosed with GAD, generalized anxiety disorder, and depression, post-pandemic issues. I have a therapist every week, take medication, and I see my psychiatrist once a month. But I feel like my problems with my husband are more than I can take right now. Whenever I have a meltdown, my husband doesn't want to cuddle or spend time with me. He says I have to deal with it all by myself, talk to a friend or my therapist. He says he cannot give me what I need, cuddling and support. So, when I isolate myself due to anxiety, we end up in an argument. He accuses me of ignoring our children and being rude. I get very irritated but not violent to him. If I decide to hang out with friends, socialization is what I truly need. He gets jealous and accuses me of looking for another man. In any of those situations, he keeps arguing with me until I reach my breaking point. I end up in an anxiety attack and need to take a sedative. When I tell him I cannot live like that, he says we need to get a divorce because he is my trigger. I try to explain that I have many triggers right now due to my mental illness. I don't blame him. My problem is how he handles it, that whenever I have a problem, he runs away or transforms it into a problem about himself. He constantly says that he's not an empathetic person and doesn't know how to handle that. However, when I come to my breaking point, he says he loves me, takes care of me, and hugs me until I fall asleep. The next day, he says he wants to be with me forever. I told him I feel abandoned by him and unloved. I truly feel that he wants a divorce, but he is waiting for me to make the decision. I feel quite blind in this situation. I truly don't know what to do. I have little energy, and I wish I could focus it on getting better, especially for my kids. I can't use it to help my relationship right now, but I don't know what I should do to make him understand. I really don't know how I can solve this problem without messing with my treatment. Any advice will be very welcomed. Thanks for reading it. Update 1. So as I posted before, I'm going through a lot at home. I have anxiety and my husband doesn't know how to cope with it. Now, I believe he simply doesn't want to cope. We visited my doctor together so he could understand a little bit about the situation, generalized anxiety disorder and depression. Terrible idea. He criticized me all the time, blamed me for not getting better, and at the end said he didn't believe we could work out anymore. Yes, he said that to my doctor who was trying to make him understand how GAD and depression are affecting me. At the end, I was crying and he was angry at me and at the doctor. He insisted I took him to a couples therapy without his consent. The next day, I asked him the question I posted. When he couldn't answer if he still loved me, I removed my wedding ring and said we were done. I couldn't be with someone who couldn't answer this simple question. More than a decade together, and that's how he answered me. He apologized, cried, and said he doesn't love me anymore. My anxiety has destroyed his feelings for me. I'm heartbroken but relieved, because I couldn't spend my energy on this relationship when clearly I was the only one fighting for it. At least now I know it's over. However, I feel lonely since I will have to fight this mental disorder all by myself. My family lives far away. I must get better for my children and I cannot move out right now nor him. We will have 2 different bedrooms while sharing the house. We will also talk to a mediator in order to organize the separation while I'm fighting against GAD and depression. I hope it's going to help. We have the kids and they don't know yet how to tell them. I feel like I failed this family and I'm afraid I'll end up getting worse. Tell me, how did you cope with all of this if you went through a similar situation in your past? I need some hope. Thanks for reading. Update 2. Hello you all. First of all, thanks for the kind messages and PMs I received. I cannot thank you guys enough. I just want to make an update and also vent a little bit. So, after the decision to get separated, things got better at home. I believe that a weight has been removed from our shoulders. So we had almost no arguments, we were being kind to one another and my anxiety got better, as well as my depression. Things were so good that we made the mistake of sleeping together. That gave me lots of hope. Maybe we would find our way back together. After that, we talked. I told him we could not repeat that. I still have feelings for him, so it would hurt me a lot if the sex meant nothing to him. We had a mediation session and tears were all over. We agreed he would no longer hug me when I left in the morning. The mediator said we had to cut those physical connections to avoid repeating the same mistake. Also, he would clear his office, which would become my new bedroom. It was difficult, but we cut off the hugs. After a couple of days, he, on the other hand, asked for the day off at work. I thought it would be to clean the office, but no. Later, he told me he has an internal fight. He didn't want the separation, but he believed that it was necessary because we were not happy together. I reminded him he is the one who doesn't love me anymore, and that I am unhappy due to my depression. A couple of days later, we were discussing something and messages kept popping up on my phone. It was a Redditor male friend called X who has the same name as a friend called Z I have over here. This same day, I would go to a party where Z would be attending. My ex got a bit uncomfortable and asked me if Z and I were flirting. I said no and explained that the messages were from X who lives in another country. He was clearly jealous. When I returned from the party, my ex tried to have sex with me, which I denied. The next day we talked about that and I asked him about his feelings. I assured him I was not interested in other people. Also that, once again, we could not have sex if he didn't love me anymore. I asked him if he was unsure about his feelings, but he said he was just horny, nothing else. I felt so disrespected. He knew about my feelings and tried having sex with me because he was horny. The next days, I kept sending him photos of the new furniture I would need to buy for my new room. I was asking him for some advice regarding the size of them. None of them was good. Too big, too small, too expensive. After that, I reminded him that he needed to clean the office. I told him that sharing a room was making things difficult for me. So I asked him if he was having second thoughts because he was delaying it, plus he had issues with every suggestion I made regarding the furniture. He didn't even think twice before answering, "Nah, I'm just being lazy. You are complicating things." He suggested I could clean it myself. I reminded him that this was his job and that we had agreed on that during the mediation. Yeah, this super sincere answer hurt, but now we are back to arguments again. He does not accept my emotions and gets angry or rude to me anytime I say something he doesn't like. Sometimes I feel like he deliberately confuses me so I don't move on. Update 3. We had a mediation session earlier this week. I spoke about the mixed signals he sent me, how they confused me and gave me hope. The mediator said exactly what you guys said. There is not coming back now, you made your decision clear. Ben, my ex, can you see how you make her feel? It is not helpful. He cried and apologized to me after the session. I had a very depressive episode where I couldn't stop crying. He put me in bed, gave me my medicine and stayed with me until I fell asleep. This same night, he started cleaning the office. Yesterday, he went to the store to get my new mattress, so I didn't have to wait for delivery nor do it by myself. He also measured the things I needed and helped me with everything related to the new furniture. I think reality wasn't hitting him so deep down as it was supposed to be. Our next step will be the worst one, to tell the kids what's going on. I already prepared notes to send to their teachers and got a therapist in case they need someone to talk to. Once again, thanks for the kind messages and suggestions. I feel much better now. Update 4. My ex said something a time ago regarding a lost friendship, and I would like to use this metaphor over here. This separation feels like grieving without a body to grieve on. I have to go through all the mourning phases as if I have lost something. I did lose my emotional support, my confidant, and who I used to lean on. I am learning how to walk alone again, and it hurts a lot. However, I am fine. It does not hurt as much as before, and I feel less lost. I denied. I got angry, then tried to bargain. I got more depressed and hurt, but finally I arrived at acceptance. Each stage had its own time. I needed help to get over each one of them. I am not ready to date anyone, but I'm having a blast getting to know new people. My ex, on the other hand, is having a hard time. He cried a lot last week, got angry, tried to annul the separation and get back together. He asked me to change my passwords so he would not give in the desperation to check my phone. I tried to help him because I am like that. I love him. He is part of my life and my kid's dad. I cannot leave him suffering. So, I offered him some help, some support, but also I respected my limits, my boundaries, and I didn't betray my process. I didn't let him kiss me, but I gave him a hug when he needed. I was able to separate each feeling because I was being his friend, not his wife anymore, and I was able to do that without jeopardizing my progress of acceptance. Now I sleep better. I can concentrate on my job, tell friends about my separation, and feel that my anxiety and depression are getting better. I am helping him as much as I can, but I accept that the separation is necessary at the moment. I accept that we might get back together in the future or not. I am not anxious about right now. I am accepting the present and the past and hoping for a better future, and for the first time in months, I told my therapist that in a couple of months I might be able to reduce the dose of my medication. There is hope. There is a light at the end. We just need to accept that everything takes its own time. Update 5. Hello. It's been a while, but so much has happened that I don't even know what to think about it. So I decided to come here and tell you all about it. Please, you can judge me if you feel like it. So I went to a birthday party with some friends and I met someone. Let's call him Nate. He is very nice, has a beautiful smile, and is also divorced. His ex told him she didn't love him anymore and asked for the divorce. Oh, but there is a problem. He used to be my ex's coworker. So during the party he and I talked a lot due to so much in common. My friend reminded me we were both single and we were definitely enjoying each other's company. The party was amazing and I was drinking a lot, so I decided I would stay for the night in my friend's house. I was sitting on the floor when Nate came to sit close to me with a gorgeous smile. I felt like 1,000 butterflies were in my stomach. We were laughing, talking, and he was sitting very, very close to me. Suddenly he tried to kiss me, but I said no. I totally freaked out. I invited him outside so we could talk away from people. I said I thought that being with him would be a bad idea due to my ex Ben knowing him. When his ex asked for the divorce, he was very sad and told my ex about it. They were not friends, but they could have been. Nate told me he was really into me, complimented my beauty and my smile, and held my hand. We were both drinking a lot, so I just gave in and kissed him back, and it was amazing. I was not checking my phone, and Ben was trying to reach me out to check if I was really okay. I usually don't drink to the point I cannot drive or take an Uber, so Ben contacted my friend to ask if I was okay. So my friend texted me to let me know what was going on. Since she knew I was with Nate, she told Ben I was with her sleeping. When I came home in the morning, he started asking me questions. Where I was, who I was with. I told him I didn't have to answer him, it was my privacy. So I found out he checked all my social media accounts and messages, read all my private messages with my friend, and wrote nasty things to her due to her lie. He also reached Nate and said nasty things to him too. He said they were friends and that Nate had betrayed him. Furthermore, he used a fake account, a sexy girl, to message a guy he thought I was with. Ben said I acted like a 20-year-old girl who had no responsibilities nor kids because I came back in the morning. I felt terrible after that. I knew my kids were safe with him, but maybe he is right. He said I need to grow up and not go out drinking again like a young girl. It is not the first time he has told me that. Ben cried all day long, asked me to come back to him, to try again, and that he didn't want to lose me. I told him I didn't believe in his love at all, but he swore he truly loved me, that he was mistaken. I met Nate a couple of days later to apologize for Ben's reactions. Nate told me things I didn't remember at all. Alcohol. According to him, I called myself too old to make out with someone, not attractive due to some white hairs and a mother's body, and that I didn't deserve his compliments. Nate was gentle and kind to me and said how much he wanted to spend time with me again. He made me feel beautiful and attractive again and not too old. Nate will be away for 2 months now. He texted me a couple of times and we saw each other again before his departure. He said he understands this is all new to me and too soon, but that he would like to take me on a date when he comes back. I, on the other hand, feel like being with him is wrong, very wrong, and sleeping with or going on a date is even worse. Update 6. First of all, thank you all for the kind messages, tips, and concerns. It is amazing how strangers can mean so much. I will try to summarize as much as I can since a lot has happened. Myself, I am much better now and I am able to see things I couldn't before. I feel much better now psychologically speaking, and next week I will visit my doctor. I still have some bad days, depression, but in general I believe I'm almost over it. Ben causes me lots of anxiety and we had some harsh talks about that. No, I hadn't moved out yet, unfortunately. I currently live in a place where rents are increasing way too much. I cannot afford a place where I could live with my kids. But since we have a counselor, we are setting some strong boundaries. Ben, last month, he decided to self-medicate himself for depression. Crazy, I know. He got an old prescription that was still valid and decided to go back to the medication without talking to the doctor. Now he says he understands my anxiety and depression and begged me for a second chance. I said no. I have realized how much he tried to manipulate me in the past and lots of gaslighting signs. He said bad things about Nate, tried to access my phone, changed my passwords twice this month and made me feel suffocated, extremely haunted. He even used a fake profile to flirt with some guy friends of mine he was jealous with. I could not believe in it. I made myself clear about my limits and boundaries. This is not the man I fell in love with. Nate, we have been talking every other day. We might see each other this Friday, a day after he is back. He is always very sweet and understanding, so he told me this. I want to see you no matter what we're doing together. So no pressure regarding sex, lol. He knows I am not ready for a serious relationship right now. Neither is he. We agreed on that. We are living the present and whatever comes with it, we will handle it. I told him about my diagnostic and how things are complicated for me right now. Now something really creepy. What are the chances Ben and Nate share the same birthday? My friend who believes in astrology said this is a bad sign. I don't believe in those things. Update 7. Hello everyone. I have wanted to provide an update for a while, but I have gone through some difficult weeks. I had a date with Nate and things went amazingly well. After putting my kids to bed, I went out and had a great time with him. We have a very nice connection and spent the night together. Nate was very sweet. At first, Ben was very upset and cried a lot when I told him I was going out with Nate. He truly hates Nate and believes he is a bad influence on our kids. He still implies that Nate is a home wrecker and a horrible person. After a few days, he got better once he found someone to go out with. I found out who she was because she decided to stalk me on social media. Now Ben goes out with her and he is back to his normal self, a happy single man who can be rude to his ex-wife. When he was alone, he begged me to give him another chance and cried during our meetings while professing his love. Once he found someone, he went back to being rude and reaffirmed to the conciliator that we are better separated. So clearly his problem was being alone. I also had a hard time with my depression this last month and had to return to my previous drug dosage. One of the reasons why I am unable to move out is that I am a part-time worker and a part-time student. During the pandemic, I became HSM and had to take care of my baby at home while my kids had online classes and Ben struggled with depression. Once things got back to normal, I decided to pursue my dream of getting a master's degree. Now with the divorce, I am in a bad spot. To make things worse, my work hours were cut in half a couple of weeks ago and I got into a car accident the same week and lost my car. These were just some of the bad things that happened last month and my mental health was wrecked. I feel stuck right now with less money, a student loan to pay back, and an unfinished degree. At least during those bad moments, I could see who would be there for me. Ben was extremely rude to me when I called him for help after my car accident. I had one of my kids with me and I was totally lost and nervous. The airbag came out and I needed a ride home. From the phone call to the moment we went home, he didn't say one nice word to me. On the day I was informed I had lost some work hours, he made me cry in front of the kids. Nate, on the other hand, took me for a walk so I could cry and swear as much as I needed to. He told me 1,000,000 times that I can call him anytime, especially if I'm having an anxiety attack. He made it clear he wants to be there for me and even offered me his place if I need to take some days off to recharge. I truly didn't want to find a person right now. I am not one of those people who cannot be alone. I wanted to get better and focus on my mental health, but for some reason, Nate came into my life. He became one of the happy moments I have in my days with his good morning messages. His hugs became a place where I feel safe and happy, and seeing him makes me feel good. It is clear that I cannot start dating him while living with Ben. It feels wrong and Nate agrees with me, but he told me he is not going to see anyone else besides me and that he is in love with me. He even told his mother about me. Right now we simply try to see each other once a week so we can enjoy the time together. Date 8. Hi everyone. I'm looking for some advice and feedback on my current situation with my ex-husband. We've been having ongoing issues with co-parenting and I'm wondering if his behavior constitutes parental alienation and what steps I can take. Here's what's been happening. Incident 1. Last week, my ex-husband was extremely rude to me in front of our kids and his mother. He was supposed to return some library books to the school that were at his place. He has ADHD. When I asked if he had returned them, he said, "I didn't and I won't. I won't do what you demanded me, which I didn't do. If you want them returned, you should return them yourself." His mother spoke to me 2 days later explaining that she talked to him about his attitude towards me, especially in front of our kids. She mentioned that he was repeating the same behavior his dad exhibited towards her, and that the kids would soon realize how badly he treated their mother. Incident 2. Yesterday, we were all together for a farewell dinner for his mother. My youngest ran away from us in the middle of the parking lot. We all spoke at the same time to get her to stop. I was the loudest, yelling, "The cars!" She stopped and my ex decided to scold me for yelling at our child. He said, "Control yourself in front of our kids and his mother again." I stared at him and said, "Don't scold me in front of the kids." He replied, "Go scold our child. I'm not in the wrong here." Private discussion. Today, when we were alone and away from the kids, I requested him once again to please not scold or disrespect me in front of the kids. I explained that if he disagrees with my actions, he should talk to me about it later. I emphasized that his behavior shows the kids that it's okay to talk to their mother that way. He said I was wrong and that I should control myself. He insisted that if the kids were in any danger, I should control my emotions or he would scold me in front of them again. I explained that dismissing me in front of the kids could be seen as parental alienation. He responded by saying I was wrong and delusional. He refused any advice or guidance from professionals, stating that no matter what psychologists or therapists might say, he has his own opinion and won't change it. He told me he will no longer have this conversation and to sue him if I didn't agree with his behavior. Refusal of mediation and therapy. He has stated that he will not engage in any family therapy or mediation despite the existence of a center that helps divorcing couples with co-parenting. He refuses to talk to them. He says that we are not a couple and that his co-parenting is great. He also refuses to speak with a personal therapist as he doesn't believe he needs it. According to him, any issues we have are because I try to control him. He insists that scolding me in front of them is necessary when I yell at our child when she runs away from me, claiming he is protecting her. Given these incidents, I'm looking for advice on the following. 1. Parental alienation. Does his behavior constitute parental alienation? 2. Legal steps. What legal steps can I take to address his disrespect and refusal to co-parent cooperatively? I'm in Quebec, Canada. 3. Mediation. Is there a way to enforce mediation or counseling through the court system? Any advice or shared experiences would be greatly appreciated. Thanks in advance for your help. Now on to the next story. Story 7. Asked my girlfriend for childhood photos for a gift project but found a hidden video of her with our close friend. She broke down crying, said she deleted it years ago. I've been in a relationship with Kat, F26, for a little over 2 years. I'm extremely satisfied with the relationship. She is just what I didn't know I needed. We have small arguments here and there, but the kind that get sorted with a talk or 2 hours after once we both cool down a bit. She really liked a photo montage I did of our vacation, so I was thinking of doing one from since she was born until the first photo we will take when she moves in with me in February, when her lease will end. For that, I needed old photos of her. So I asked her, saying it was for a project. She gave me an external HD, said the folder marked memories would be filled with all her photos, but they would be out of order and that there would be photos with her ex-boyfriend from a summer trip they did overseas that she kept for the memories of the trip itself. Yesterday, I sat down to start checking the photos. There are a lot of them and they are all out of a specific order, so I was just picking at random. As I was scrolling down, I saw a folder in the middle of the images with a weird name. It had a few brackets and random numbers with letters but showed it had content in it. I opened it, 2 images and 1 video. The images were a screenshot of some shoes on a shopping app and a selfie with a thumb covering half the lens. Then I got to the video. It was short, 53 seconds. The first 7 or 8 seconds show someone fumbling with what I expect to be a phone. Then the camera moves down and it is Kat, back naked. With the movements and sounds, it's obvious that this is her having sex with someone. To be clear, this is not proof of cheating. She has a back tattoo to which she has been adding through the years. On the video, it is less complete than when I met her, and her hair is very short. Checking by other photos, I would say she was either 18 or 19 years old at the time. Now, we both know that neither of us was a virgin when we met. Still, it is a little bit unsettling to me to get that knowledge imprinted on my brain with visual aids. Of course, she is not doing anything wrong. But there are 3 things running wild on my mind. First, she was wearing what I can only describe as crocodile panties with a bunny tail on the side. At one point, I could see what looked like a small whip similar to what jockeys use. She never showed any inclination for this kind of thing with me. But what is really bothering me is that at one point I can see that her right wrist has a handcuff, the kind with fluffy pink hair around it, with the other handcuff open at the side. This is bothering me because she absolutely hates to be held in any way by her wrists. The first time I did it during sex, she literally tensed and froze on the spot to the point that I stopped what I was doing to check on her. She told me to never do it again. I actually told her to give me a safe word that night so that if I ever did something that she wasn't comfortable with, she could just say the word and I would stop. Fortunately, we never had to use it to this day. Now, my mind is trying to make sense of it and I'm getting concerned that she doesn't trust me for some reason, at least not to the point she seems to have trusted this guy. Second, the existence of the video itself. She loves taking photos but nothing overly sexual, just some sexy outfits. But even those aren't what I would call too much skin. She is actually pretty flirty and sometimes inappropriate when texting or speaking over the phone, but she told me once to forget any nudes or videos. She won't send them nor let me take them. I really don't mind. I'd rather see everything live. And now I see a video. Third, and what is bothering me the most, I'm almost 100% sure the guy is a friend of hers. Mark, M26. At the end of the video, when he goes to shut off the recording, he points the camera to his wrist. There is a tattoo there that is the same as Mark's. I highly doubt she met two guys with the same tattoo in the same place. They have been friends since the first year of college, so it matches the time frame. This is not someone that I'm going to say, oh, they're BFFs. They're always together, spending time alone in their apartments. They see each other maybe once a month when their group gathers for dinner or drinks. I actually go with her more often than not. I've been going crazy trying to replay their interactions, looking for any signs that I may have missed of something other than friendship, but honestly I'm coming up empty. He also has a girlfriend, and he looks at her the same way I look at mine. I don't expect Kat to tell me every hookup and relationship she had in the past, but with someone that she sees with some regularity, I would expect a heads up of some sort, especially because it seems more than just a casual thing looking at the whole setup. This is driving me mad. My actual brain knows she has done nothing wrong and that I'm probably overreacting, but my body's stress response right now is through the roof. I know that I'll need to speak to her tomorrow before I let this pen up more. I already had a bad night's sleep tonight. I don't expect it to be better, and I'm concerned that having this conversation without a clear mind may actually cause issues that I really don't want to have. Honestly, I'm a bit scared to go deeper into this rabbit hole. Jesus, what a rant this has become. Sorry for the wall of text. Seems I had more to vent than I thought. How do I approach this conversation tomorrow? Edit. Now, maybe my English isn't as good as I hoped, because I honestly do not understand the amount of people with the idea that I want to do BDSM with my girlfriend and that I'm salty about her doing it with someone else. I've never done it, and it's not something I can see enjoying, so I would only do it to an extent if I was asked. My issue is if she is interested in this, why hasn't she approached the subject in a 2-year relationship? And it doesn't help the matter that this doesn't seem to be an ex but one of her friends, which either is in fact an ex and she hid that from me when we talked about past relationships in the beginning of our own, or they had a friends with benefits situation or whatever else happened there. It's the not having context to the video that is causing my mind to spin, and that is why I need to speak with her before the dam bursts, and that is why I reached out for advice to at least not make this worse than it already is. And no, I didn't go through her phone to get pictures. I asked her for pictures. She gave me an external HD and told me in which folder to get them. The HD had other folders. I didn't open them. The video was inside a strangely named folder inside the Memories folder. I'm talking to her tonight after she comes back from work. She already knows something is not right. I couldn't sleep yesterday and she came back to see why I wasn't in bed that late. This morning, she checked on me. You are not yourself the last 2 days. Is there something going on? I just told her that I'm feeling stressed without an apparent reason and not to worry. No point in having a conversation before she leaves for work. I can't say that I'll update this today after we talk, as I don't think I'll have the mind for that, but I guess I'll eventually say something. For now, I'm going offline. Update, November 2nd, 2024. Some people had asked for an update, so I guess this will be it. I'd like to thank all the people that gave actual advice on what I asked on my post instead of judging me for whatever reason they found worthy of judgment. The advice of listening to her instead of turning the conversation into an interrogation, that was pointed to me by several people, prevented me from actually complicating our talk. The original post was long, and this update might be a bit as well. She read this before I posted, so all I've written was with her consent. I got a call from an old friend of mine to check up on me because my girlfriend had called him, worried about my behavior of the last 2 days. When I said that it was something that I would need to talk to her about, he said that's fine. Just remember that Kat is not Mary, an ex of mine. Don't bring that baggage with you. If you have an issue, talk it out, but don't put someone else's blank on your girlfriend. It was like a light switch that flipped. I had been so freaked out that I didn't even realize that a lot of what I was feeling was past trauma that was being brought up front and boosting my reactions. Basically, I was afraid of going through something similar again. When she got home, she was already wanting to speak with me. I told her that if she wanted to take a shower, I would make some tea and we would talk. I told her that I loved her. I wasn't accusing her of anything or mad at her. I was going through something and she was the only one I could speak to that could help me move past it, that I needed her to be honest and not try to hide things from me. Once she agreed, I just asked, When you gave me the external HD for me to get those photos, were you aware that there is a video in there of you and someone that I think is Mark having sex? That is not possible. I deleted it years ago. That is what she said before breaking down in tears. She hugged me. I hugged back by instinct mostly. In between the sobbing and crying, she begged me not to get mad and let her explain. I repeated that I wasn't mad. I would hear what she wanted to say. She just needed to be honest with me. Once she calmed down, she told me that it happened around 3 weeks after her 19th birthday. She had broken up with her high school boyfriend about 2 months prior. They were both pretty drunk, hanging out at her apartment living room after a night out, and things just escalated into a physical encounter. She said that the next morning they both felt extremely self-conscious about the whole thing. Mark was really freaked out that she might think he had taken advantage of her because she had a recent breakup. She was concerned that Mark had feelings for her because she only saw him as a friend. They ended up agreeing that it was a drunken hookup that none of them wanted to follow up on. At one point, Mark asked her if she remembered making a video. They checked both their phones and there was a video and photo on her phone that she deleted. Then she never saw them again and believed them to be gone. According to her, they even avoided each other for the next couple of months because of the awkwardness, and nothing else happened. I had been watching her while she spoke. She kept eye contact while speaking, seemed tense, but nothing unexpected. All in all, I saw no reason not to believe her. The handcuffs and all? A joke birthday gift from her girlfriends. It just happened to be there when they went to the room, and they thought it would be fun to open the set. We only talked about this yesterday. At the time, I had other, more pressing questions. As for not telling me in the first place, when she started dating her ex, Mark was out of the country, so she never mentioned that happening to her ex. When Mark came back, her ex was already showing signs of being jealous and controlling without much reason. So she decided not to throw gasoline into the fire. Mark started dating a girl and mentioned that they had been together once a long time ago because she asked. His girlfriend told her ex-boyfriend in the middle of a group outing. Her ex exploded. She ended up breaking up with him. Things went a bit out of control to the verge of harassment/stalking. Mark's relationship imploded sometime later because the girl saw Kat breaking up with her ex as proof that she has feelings for you, and became a bit crazy. She never told me because in the beginning she wasn't sure how I would react and was afraid I would go her ex's path. By the time she figured I wouldn't go that path, it had been so long that she just let it go. She apologized, admitted that was a bad call on her part and she should have told me and let me decide how comfortable I was with it. When she spoke about her ex being abusive, I gently asked if he was the reason for her issue with being held by the wrists. He wasn't. He was verbally and psychologically abusive but was never physical. It was someone else after she broke up with her ex, someone that belonged to her friends group. Apparently, he had a secret crush on her, was drunk at a party. They were alone on a small balcony and she friend-zoned him when he proposed. He got close. She placed her hands on his chest to try and stop him and he held her by the wrists and pinned her against the wall. One of her friends saw it through the window and helped. The guy was cut off by the friends group and last time she knew, he left to work somewhere else. Still, she was aware that if they were alone it might have been a lot worse. And when I did it to her, it was just a response to the memory. Also, this actually explains some behaviors of hers when we started dating. She looked like she needed time to make sure she was comfortable to be alone with me. Now I know why. After this, I was drained. Well, I guess anyone that actually read this far will be as well. I went silent for a good while, just replaying everything. She came to me, held my hands, and apologized again. She said she couldn't make what I saw disappear, but it was really in the past, and she just needed me to tell her what else she could do to make things easier for me. Honestly, at that point my brain was shot. Then she did something that caught me completely off guard. She called Mark on the phone, placed him on loudspeaker while motioning me to be quiet, and asked him if he could speak or was close to his girlfriend. His reply was, "To me?" He said that is an odd thing to ask. I'm alone, is something wrong? She told him that I had seen the video. Basically, the entirety of the conversation confirmed everything she told me. I didn't say anything, so he didn't know I was listening. After freaking out with, "I saw you delete that," he referred to it as a one-time meaningless thing, and a drunk hookup that keeps coming back to haunt us. He was also worried that I would tell his girlfriend, like my crazy ex. So after all this, she asked me if I needed space, but I told her I wanted her near. If she didn't want to be with me in bed, I could sleep in my study, but she wanted to be close as well. We spent yesterday together, didn't go to the party as it was planned, talked and just kept each other close. She and Mark will take a break on their friendship. He told his girlfriend, which took it better than me, but they decided some distance is better at this point. My girlfriend also offered to only go out with the group with me present, regardless of Mark being there or not. Other than that, I just asked her to give me some time and to not try to initiate sex for now. I want to be completely clear-minded and release the stress that built up before that. This is it. It's going to take some time, but I feel that I have the ground under my feet, so I'm optimistic. I think that now, after talking it out, I just need a bit of time to let it settle. Now on to the next story. Story 8. Cheating ex-wife is dying of cancer and wants one last talk, but I refused. Now her family is cursing me, but my kids support my decision. I, 45M, had a previous relationship with Lucifer, names made up for privacy, 43F. We were married for 5 years and dated for 7. From this, we had 3 kids, again, names made up for privacy, Dean, 21M, Kylie, 19F, and Jex, 17M. Context. A few months before I filed for divorce, I noticed Lucifer becoming increasingly controlling and paranoid. Like if I went out, she needed to know where I was going. Example. I went to my nan's flat to help her, along with my uncle, get some new heavy furniture inside the flat. Despite the fact that I had told her earlier where I was going, she demanded to know where I was going. I researched why these types of things might happen and found out it might be a sign of cheating. Turns out I was right. Basically, a friend of mine saw her and another man kissing and flirting inside a restaurant where he was with his siblings and mom. He sent me photos. I filed for divorce, blah blah blah, you get the idea. I didn't really care what I got in the divorce. I only pushed for 80/20 custody and to keep my money. Surprisingly, she didn't contest anything but the custody. I got 70/30 instead of 80/20, but hey, I picked myself up because I still had majority custody. Anyway, this year my ex got terminal cancer. When Dean told me Kylie and Jax, I didn't really care. I comforted my kids, but personally I didn't care. In fact, I'm ashamed of myself because of this. I was kind of excited to get full custody of Jax. Dean has already moved out, and Kylie decided she wanted to stay with only me when she turned 18. So a few days after, I got a call from Dean. He told me that Lucifer was bedridden and she had asked Dean to talk to me. Basically, her last wish was to have one last conversation with me. I told Dean quite bluntly, I'll admit that no, I would not talk to her. All care I had for this woman evaporated when I found out she cheated on me. Dean understood but told me to expect a call from his maternal side, as they had basically treated her like the world revolved around her in her last few months. Somehow my ex-in-laws got my number and have been bombarding me with texts and calls, calling me heartless and evil for not granting my ex her final wish. My kids and my ex's cousins, whom she never got along with, are on my side, but all of Lucifer's family and a few mutual friends are on her side. Thanks for listening, Reddit. Update 1. Hi. Yesterday I posted a small story about denying my ex-wife her last wish. Anyway, the reason I say this is technically an update is because it's only a small update, small. It's mostly just collectively responding to some general comments. Firstly, thanks for all the advice, love, hate, and laughing about Lucifer's chosen name. Secondly, to all those saying she's getting her karma with cancer. Stop. I might not like her, but I wouldn't wish cancer, let alone terminal cancer, on anyone, not even the woman who made my life a misery for a long few months. It's kind of messed up to say that sort of thing. I also want to talk about my resentment to my ex. To be clear, I do not hate her. Why? That would require me using energy thinking about her. I personally think this is energy wasted. I rarely have to anyway, even more rare now that 2 of my kids don't live with her part-time anymore. To the very few hurling insults at me, take a hike. If you're going to give your opinion on something, do it respectfully. And now, the tiny update. Many of you gave me the advice to not speak to Lucifer in person and instead write her a letter or make her a video. I have spoken to all of my kids collectively and asked them their opinions. I also told them that what was previously suggested above would be the only way I would grant her this wish. My kids all decided that whilst they would like me to speak to her, they totally understand if I don't want to. I told them that I'm seriously considering writing a letter or making a video for the nth time in that conversation, but that I need more time to decide if that's what I want to do. So I turned to internet strangers again. Advice would be greatly appreciated. Edit. When I said video, I meant video call, sorry for that. Update 2, hi, it's been a while. A while ago, I uploaded a post about my ex-wife, Lucifer, and also a small update that I didn't really consider a proper response. 1. I'm making this to update you all and answer a few questions. I'll start off with the two main questions. One was, did I talk to her? I ended up choosing not to. At first, a few months ago, I decided I would in person for the sake of my kids. However, upon arriving at the hospital, I began hyperventilating and nearly passed out. After this, I went back on my word and decided not to. I did not think risking my own life just to speak to someone I have not seen in a very long time was worth it. The second question is pretty much the same sort of thing. Did I make her a video call? Her? Or write her a letter? I also considered this. However, after I decided I might, something happened that made it impossible. Let me catch you up first. Shortly after my post, some of Lucifer's relatives that had been attacking me began to publicly attack me on social media. I was attacked by even more people, most of these people I did not know. The posts were taken down when my 3 kids sat down their mother's relatives and told them in no uncertain terms they would cut contact if this kind of thing continued. This seemed to stop it. I am incredibly grateful and feel blessed that my kids did this for me. They didn't have to, but they did. Shortly after this, we received news that Lucifer might actually come out alive. Basically, what was killing her had sort of become benign, and the doctors were working on treatment. This was short-lived. Just last week, Lucifer passed in her sleep. My children and their family are incredibly upset. I have comforted my kids and done my best to support them the whole way through. My kids have decided to begin planning her funeral. I have decided to attend at the request of my eldest, Dean, and at the request of a mutual friend of mine and Lucifer's who I'll call John, 42M. He supported me despite still being friends with Lucifer through the whole divorce process. I feel as though I owe it to him. John has told me that he will sit with me and make sure none of Lucifer's family trouble me. My young, in my middle Jax and Kylie, have agreed to do a similar thing by speaking to their relatives and distracting them. It's not fully planned yet, and I will update you in maybe a month when the funeral takes place. Thank you for your continued support and compliments throughout the entire period since my first upload. Thank you as a whole, Reddit. Now on to the next story. Story 9. My ex-wife cheated during our engagement, married me anyway, left me for her ex, then used my ring to get engaged to him. When he dumped her, she blamed me for everything. I'm a 33-year-old man who, up until recently, had been really hesitant to commit to a serious relationship. My past experiences left me pretty scared to commit. A few years ago, I was in a toxic relationship with a girl who was incredibly manipulative and controlling. I didn't see the red flags early on because, love can make you blind. We were together for about 3 years, and during that time I lost a lot of who I was. She isolated me from my friends, made me feel like I was always in the wrong, and cheated on me multiple times. When I finally found the strength to leave her, I promised myself I wouldn't let anyone have that kind of control over me again. After that relationship, I became really cautious. I dated here and there, but nothing serious. I was scared of getting hurt again, so I kept things casual. I wasn't looking for anything more than just having fun, but deep down, I knew I wanted something real. The problem was, I didn't trust myself to pick the right person. I thought I'd always end up with someone who would hurt me again. So when I met Arya, I had my guard up, but she seemed different at first, like maybe she was someone I could finally let my guard down with. Arya, who was 31 years old, had her own set of issues. From what she told me, she came from a rough background. Her parents weren't very supportive, and she had a history of unstable relationships. She'd been in and out of therapy for years, dealing with anxiety, depression, and trust issues. She was very open about her mental health struggles, and I respected that. It made me feel like she was genuine because she wasn't trying to hide the fact that she had problems. I felt like I could be real with her, too, which was something I hadn't felt in a long time. She mentioned that her previous relationships had ended badly, mostly because of her jealousy and trust issues. She even admitted that she had been cheated on a couple of times, which only made her more insecure. I could relate to the trust issues given my past, so I thought maybe we could help each other heal. But looking back, I think we were both too damaged to really be good for each other. Arya and I met through a mutual friend, Kayla, at a party. I wasn't planning to go, but Kayla convinced me to come out and have some fun. She'd been trying to set me up with someone for a while, so I figured this was just another one of her attempts. But when I met Arya, there was an instant connection. We clicked in a way I hadn't experienced in a long time. We had similar interests. Movies, music, even our taste in books was surprisingly alike. It felt like meeting someone who really got me. We started dating pretty quickly after that. From the beginning, we were both clear about our goals. Neither of us was interested in a fling. We were dating with the intention of finding someone to settle down with. This was a big deal for me because I hadn't felt ready to settle down with anyone in years. But with Arya, I felt like maybe I'd found the person I could do that with. We talked about marriage early on, and it didn't scare me the way it used to. She seemed like someone I could build a future with. But things started getting complicated sooner than I expected. Arya had major jealousy issues which led to frequent arguments. At first, I tried to be understanding because of her past. I knew she'd been cheated on before, so I figured her jealousy was just a way of protecting herself. But it got out of hand. She would get upset if I so much as talked to another woman, even if it was just a friendly conversation. She'd accuse me of flirting, of wanting to cheat on her, and it didn't help that she would bring up my ex and compare herself to her. It was exhausting. My family wasn't keen on Arya either. They thought she was too erratic and unstable. My mom even told me she thought Arya was bad news and that I should reconsider the relationship. But I didn't listen. I was convinced that my family just didn't understand her, that they were being too judgmental. Arya had a way of making me feel like we were the only ones who understood each other and that everyone else was just trying to tear us apart. We broke up temporarily after one particularly nasty argument where she accused me of cheating with a coworker. The accusation was completely false, and it hurt that she didn't trust me. I was ready to end things for good, but Arya came back, apologizing and promising to work on her issues. She said she realized she was pushing me away and that she didn't want to lose me. Against my better judgment, I decided to give her another chance. After we got back together, things seemed to improve for a while. Arya was making an effort to control her jealousy, and we were actually enjoying our time together without constant arguments. About a year later, after we had celebrated our 3-year anniversary, I decided to propose. I really thought she had changed, and I believed we could make it work. I proposed during a weekend getaway to the mountains where we had one of our first dates. It felt like the perfect place to take that next step. Arya was over the moon when I proposed. She seemed genuinely happy, and for a while, everything felt right. We started planning the wedding, and I really thought we were on our way to building a life together. But I should have known things were never going to be that simple. Planning the wedding was where things started to fall apart again. Arya had this vision of a big, extravagant wedding which I wasn't really on board with. I wanted something simpler, but she insisted that this was her dream wedding, and that we should go all out. She kept adding things to the list. More guests, a fancier venue, designer dresses. I tried to compromise, but it felt like nothing I suggested was good enough. We argued almost daily about the wedding. Arya turned into a bit of a bridezilla. To be honest, she was stressed out all the time and would snap at me over the smallest things. If something didn't go exactly as she wanted, she would lose it. I started to hate anything related to the wedding because I knew it would just lead to another fight. It wasn't just about the money either. She was obsessed with making everything perfect, and I felt like I was just along for the ride, like my opinion didn't matter. I tried to tell her how I was feeling, but she would either dismiss my concerns or turn it into a huge argument. The stress wasn't just between us. My family was still skeptical of Arya, and the wedding planning only made things worse. My parents were not thrilled with the idea of spending so much money on a wedding, especially when they still weren't sold on Arya being the right person for me. They started making passive-aggressive comments, and at one point, they even threatened not to attend the wedding if things didn't calm down. This put me in a tough spot because I wanted my family to be there, but I also didn't want to upset Arya by siding with them. Arya wasn't too happy about my parents either. She felt like they were trying to sabotage the wedding and our relationship. She accused them of not respecting her. I found myself stuck in the middle, trying to please everyone but not really succeeding with anyone. The closer we got to the wedding, the more I felt like things were out of control. The financial strain was also taking a toll on me. Arya was insisting on an expensive wedding, and even though we had some savings, it was clear we were going to have to go into debt to afford everything she wanted. I tried to talk to her about cutting back on some things, but she would get really upset, saying I was ruining her dream wedding. I didn't want to disappoint her, so I just kept quiet and hoped we would make it work. But it was stressing me out to the point where I couldn't sleep at night. I kept thinking about all the bills we were racking up and how we were going to pay for them after the wedding. What made it worse was that I felt like I couldn't talk to anyone about it. My family would just say, "I told you so," and I didn't want to burden my friends with my problems, so I kept it all inside, trying to put on a brave face for Arya and everyone else. But inside, I was a mess. I was starting to wonder if I was making a huge mistake, but I didn't know how to back out without causing even more drama. The wedding day finally arrived about 11 months ago, but it didn't go as smoothly as I had hoped. Arya seemed distracted and nervous from the moment she woke up. I chalked it up to pre-wedding jitters because I was feeling anxious, too. But there was something off about her that I couldn't quite put my finger on. During the ceremony, she kept glancing at her phone, which I thought was weird, but I didn't want to make a scene, so I let it go. Right before the ceremony, we had a brief argument. I saw her texting someone, and when I asked who it was, she got defensive. She snapped at me, saying it was none of my business and that I was being paranoid. That threw me off, but I didn't want to ruin the day, so I dropped it. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. The honeymoon period was supposed to be a time for us to relax and enjoy being newlyweds, but it was anything but that. We went on a short trip to a tropical island, but instead of spending time together, Arya kept to herself most of the time. She would go off on her own, saying she needed space, or that she wasn't feeling well. When we were together, we ended up arguing more often than not. She was moody and distant, and I couldn't figure out what was going on. The trip was cut short because Arya had a sudden mood swing and we had a huge fight. She accused me of being too controlling and said she felt trapped in the marriage. I was shocked because this was supposed to be the happiest time of our lives, but it was turning into a nightmare. I tried to reason with her, but nothing I said seemed to make a difference. It felt like she was already checked out of the marriage, and we hadn't even been married for a month. A few weeks after we got back from the honeymoon, Arya confessed that she still had feelings for Evan, her high school sweetheart. She admitted that she'd been talking to him throughout our engagement and even during our wedding. She said she had considered calling off the wedding multiple times but didn't have the courage to do it. Hearing her say that was like a punch to the gut. All that stress, all those arguments, we could have avoided it all if she had just been honest with me from the start. But instead, she went through with the wedding, knowing she didn't want to be with me. She said she was sorry, but it didn't feel sincere. It felt like she was just trying to get it off her chest, like she was relieved to finally tell me the truth. I tried to keep it together, but I was devastated. I couldn't believe I had married someone who didn't even want to be with me. She said she didn't know what to do, that she was confused and didn't want to hurt me, but all I could think about was how betrayed I felt. I asked her why she didn't just end it before the wedding, and she said she thought she could make it work, that maybe marrying me would help her forget about Evan. But it didn't, and now we were both stuck in a marriage that wasn't meant to be. Despite everything, I still loved Arya, and I wasn't ready to give up on the marriage just yet. I tried to convince her that it was just a phase, that she was just confused, and that we could work through it. I suggested setting boundaries, like asking her to stop talking to Evan so we could focus on us. I even brought up the idea of couples counseling, thinking that maybe a professional could help us sort through our issues. But Arya refused. She said she didn't think counseling would help, and that she didn't want to stop talking to Evan because he was the only one who understood her. That was the final nail in the coffin for me. I realized that no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't force her to want to be in the marriage. She was still holding on to her past with Evan, and I was just in the way. It broke my heart, but I knew I had to let her go. As if things couldn't get worse, I started digging into our relationship and found out that Arya had been lying to me for months. She hadn't just been talking to Evan since the wedding. She'd been in contact with him since we got engaged. She had been sneaking around, lying about where she was and who she was with. There were times when she said she was with her friends, but she was actually meeting up with Evan. All those moments when I thought she was just being distant or stressed, it was because she was hiding her relationship with him. Finding all of this out ruined whatever trust one had left in her. I felt like a complete fool for not seeing the signs earlier. I had been so focused on making the wedding perfect and trying to make her happy that I missed all the red flags. Looking back, it was obvious that something was wrong, but I was too blinded by love again to see it. When I confronted Arya about her lies, things got ugly. We had a heated argument that escalated into a physical altercation. I'm not proud of how I acted, but I was so angry and hurt that I couldn't control myself. I didn't hit her or anything, but I did grab her arms and shake her, demanding to know why she did this to me. She screamed at me, calling me controlling, and accusing me of being the reason our marriage was falling apart. After that fight, Arya packed her bags and moved out. She left a note saying that she couldn't live like this anymore, and that she needed space. I was left alone in our apartment. It was one of the darkest moments of my life. I felt like I had lost everything. A few days later, I received divorce papers in the mail, and that was that. Our marriage was over before it even really began. After Arya moved out, we didn't have any direct contact. Everything was handled through our lawyers, and it was a clean break as far as the legal stuff went. But emotionally, I was a wreck. I couldn't stop thinking about what went wrong and how everything fell apart so quickly. I was angry, hurt, and confused all at the same time. I wanted to reach out to her, to ask her why she did this to me, but I knew it wouldn't make any difference. She had made her choice, and there was no going back. Even though I wasn't in contact with Arya, I still heard about her through Kayla, our mutual friend. Kayla was stuck in the middle of this whole mess, and I felt bad for her. She didn't want to take sides, but it was hard for her not to get involved when both of her friends were going through something so complicated. Not long after the divorce, Kayla told me that Arya had started dating Evan again. I wasn't surprised, but it still hurt to hear it. It was like she didn't waste any time moving on. According to Kayla, Arya and Evan moved in together pretty quickly and were flaunting their relationship all over social media. They were posting pictures of themselves at all these places that Arya and I had planned to go to together. It was like she was rubbing it in my face, even though I wasn't following her on social media anymore. She used me to get over Evan, and once she realized she couldn't, she went back to him. It made me feel like our entire relationship was a lie, like she never really loved me. I started to resent her even more, and I couldn't understand how she could be so happy after everything that happened. The divorce didn't just leave me emotionally drained. It also hit me hard financially. Arya and I had combined our finances when we got married, and even though we didn't have a joint account, we were both contributing to our shared expenses. When we split up, I was left with most of the debt from the wedding, as well as the cost of our honeymoon. Arya didn't offer to help with any of it, and I was too proud to ask, so I took it all on myself, even though it was a huge burden. I had to make a lot of sacrifices to keep up with the payments. I downgraded my apartment, sold some of my stuff, and cut back on anything that wasn't absolutely necessary. It was tough, but I didn't want to be in debt for the rest of my life because of a failed marriage. I was angry that Arya had walked away scot-free. It felt like she got to move on with her life while I was stuck dealing with the aftermath. Now that all that backstory is done, this is the reason why I've decided to write this post. About a month ago, I got the news that Arya and Evan were engaged. Kayla told me that Evan had proposed using the same ring I had given to Arya when I proposed, which did later bite her in the ass. That was a real slap in the face. It was bad enough that she moved on so quickly, but to use the same ring that I had picked out for her felt like a whole new level of disrespect. They were planning a small ceremony, inviting some of our mutual friends, which caused even more drama. Some of our friends were conflicted about going to the wedding because they didn't want to choose sides. Kayla, in particular, was really confused. She had been invited, but she felt like what Arya had done was wrong. She didn't agree with how Arya had treated me, but she also didn't want to lose her friendship with her. Kayla ended up declining the invitation to Arya and Evan's wedding, which I was grateful for. It showed me that she had my back, even though it put her in an awkward position. But it also made things complicated between us because I knew she was still in contact with Arya. I didn't want to make her feel like she had to choose between us. Kayla tried to stay neutral, but it was clear she was struggling with it all. She told me she didn't want to be in the middle, but she also didn't want to cut Arya out of her life completely. I understood where she was coming from, but it was hard for me to accept. I didn't want to lose Kayla as a friend, but I also didn't want to keep being reminded of Arya every time I saw her. It was a tough situation, and I wasn't sure how to handle it without making things worse. Just when I thought things couldn't get more complicated, Arya reached out to me out of the blue. I had blocked her on all social media after the divorce, but she created a new Instagram account to get around that and sent me a message. I wasn't expecting it at all, so it caught me off guard. In her message, she blamed me for her wedding with Evan being called off. Apparently, things didn't go as planned and they ended up breaking up. She claimed it was because of the bad karma I had wished on her and accused me of ruining her life. The message was long and full of accusations, saying that if I had been more understanding, if I had talked to Evan and made it clear that she didn't love me anymore, things wouldn't have ended this way. She also admitted that during a heated argument with Evan, she had brought me up, which made him question whether she was truly over our relationship. The final straw that I heard from Kayla later was that Evan discovered that Arya had used the engagement ring I had given her for their wedding. He saw this as a clear sign that she hadn't fully moved on from me. Feeling hurt, Evan called off the wedding, telling her he couldn't marry someone who wasn't fully committed to him. At first, I considered ignoring the message. I didn't want to get dragged back into her drama, especially after everything I had been through. But the more I thought about it, the more it pissed me off. She was trying to put the blame on me for her own decisions, and I wasn't going to let her do that. So I decided to reply. I told her that what happened was karma for how she treated me. I reminded her that she had been the one to lie, to cheat, and to walk away from our marriage without a second thought. I told her that she deserved everything that happened because she had brought it on herself. I wasn't kind in my response, but I didn't care. I was done being the nice guy who always tried to see the best in people. After I sent the message, I blocked her again and didn't give it a second thought. Apparently, my message didn't go over well with Arya. Kayla told me that Arya had a severe panic attack after reading what I said. She ended up in the hospital because of it, and her parents were furious. They blamed me for triggering her breakdown and said that I was the reason she was in such a bad place. I didn't know how to feel about that. On one hand, I didn't want to be responsible for someone's mental health issues, but on the other hand, I felt like Arya was trying to manipulate the situation to make me look like the bad guy again. Kayla was also surprised by my response to Arya's message. She knew I was angry, but she didn't expect me to be so harsh. She told me that she thought I was better than that I should have been the bigger person and just ignored Arya. She said she understood why I was upset, but she didn't agree with how I handled it. This led to a bit of a problem between us because I felt like she was taking Arya's side, even though she claimed she was just trying to be neutral. Kayla started to distance herself from me after that. She was still friendly, but there was a definite change in our relationship. She wasn't as supportive as she used to be, and I could tell she was disappointed in me. It hurt because Kayla had been one of my closest friends throughout this whole ordeal, but now it felt like I was losing her. 2. I tried to explain my side of things, but she didn't want to hear it. She thought I was just being petty and that I needed to let go of the anger and move on. The tension between Kayla and me finally came to a head when we had a big argument about everything that had happened. I was fed up with her trying to tell me how I should feel and how I should handle things. I told her that I had every right to be angry and that Arya deserved what I said to her. Kayla didn't agree. She said that while Arya had made mistakes, it wasn't my place to kick her when she was down. She said she expected more from me, and that really hurt. The argument ended with both of us saying things we didn't mean. I told her that if she was going to keep defending Arya, maybe we shouldn't be friends anymore. She fired back that maybe I needed to take a look at myself and figure out why I was still so angry. It was a nasty fight, and it left us both feeling pretty awful. We haven't really spoken much since then, and it feels like I've lost one of my closest friends because of this whole mess. Now, things at work are pretty tense. Kayla and I used to be really close, but after our argument, there's been this awkwardness between us. We still have to see each other every day, and it's uncomfortable. We're polite, but it's not the same. But recently, Kayla pulled me aside and suggested that I talk to Arya. She said that maybe if I reached out and told her that I didn't mean what I said, it might help both of us move on. She didn't say I should apologize, but she hinted that it might be the right thing to do. I was shocked that she would even suggest that, considering everything Arya put me through. But Kayla insisted that it could be a way to find closure, and that it might help me let go of the anger I'm holding on to. According to Kayla, Arya is still struggling with her mental health. She's had a few more breakdowns since our last interaction, and she's not doing well. She's back in therapy, but it doesn't seem to be helping much. Kayla said that Arya's parents are really worried about her and that they're trying to get her the help she needs. But then there's Kayla's opinion to consider. She's been a good friend to me, and I don't want to lose her over this. If talking to Arya would help repair my friendship with Kayla, maybe it's worth considering. But I'm not sure I can bring myself to do it. I feel like I'm caught between wanting to move on and wanting to hold on to my pride. It's a tough place to be, and I don't know what the right decision is. So here I am asking for some outside perspective. Am I the a-hole for telling my ex-wife that being left was karma for how she treated me? Now on to the next story. Story 10. Joked about my long-distance GF's secret husband, but she asked how long I'd known. Turns out she was married with a kid the whole time. So I helped her husband get divorced. I met my girlfriend on a dating app 4 years ago. Before we were together, I would swipe through apps like Tinder all the time, mostly just to try and find someone from my phone. I would talk to someone now and then, but it never really panned out to be much. As soon as I saw my girlfriend's profile, I thought she was stunning. Her bio caught my attention, too. I knew right away that I wanted to talk to her, so I swiped right and we matched. I took my shot and I messaged her, partially not even expecting her to respond. To my surprise, she messaged me back less than an hour later, and both of us really just hit it off during our first conversations. I was getting my hopes up a little. She was a beautiful girl and we seemed to get along. After chatting for a little while, she told me that she was only in town for a week on business. I was bummed because I thought she was really awesome and it sucked to hear that nothing would really come of our relationship. She told me that she wanted to meet me while she was there, so we got together at her hotel room and we hooked up. It was just as amazing as I thought it would be. So I gave her my number and told her that we should keep in touch. I didn't think at the time that we would be starting a long-distance relationship, but after she left, that's what it blossomed into. Even though we didn't get to see each other often, I was extremely happy knowing that she was my girlfriend. She had a very rigorous work schedule and our time off never seemed to coincide. Admittedly, I was somewhat blinded by my attraction to her, so there were a lot of things that I overlooked in the beginning of our relationship. For example, the first time that I ever visited her house, I noticed some weird things inside. There were 2 toothbrushes in the bathroom, which was a little strange considering she lived by herself. On top of that, there was a more masculine-scented shaving cream under the sink as well. I asked her about the toothbrush and she just told me that it was an old one that she hadn't thrown away. I believed her. I didn't really have any reason to think much else about it. I spent the rest of the weekend with her and ended up going back home happier than ever. I genuinely liked her and I wanted to move in with her because I saw a future with us. Every time I would broach the subject, she would tell me that it was too soon in our relationship. The first time I asked, it had been about a year. The second time, we'd been together for 3 years. Personally, 3 years is not a short amount of time for me. It felt like it was the next step in our relationship to live together. We had been long distance that entire time because I was waiting to move in with her. I ended up just deciding to move closer to her regardless. If we couldn't live together, we could at least live in the same city. When I told her that I was moving, She acted like it was some surprise and told me that I shouldn't have done something like that for her. Her reaction kind of shocked me. I assumed she would be happy to have me closer to her. Even though I was living so close to her, I still only saw her occasionally. I understood that she was busy, but at the same time I didn't quite get why we couldn't spend nights together at each other's apartments. After a few months of being closer, it started to click with me that something else might have been going on. I had read crazy, outlandish stories about people who lived double lives and carried on affairs, having families in different states, etc. I didn't want to believe that could be what was happening there, but my mind started to do its own thing. I learned the truth all because of a dumb joke that I made. My girlfriend and I were out to dinner and we were having a good time. I asked her if she wanted to go back to her house after we finished eating, and she said, "No." Then I made a joke, commenting on how she didn't want me to be there because of her husband and children. She got really silent for a moment and put her food down, like she couldn't believe what I'd said. Then she said, "How long have you known?" I laughed for a moment, thinking she was making some deadpan joke back at me. After a couple of moments, I realized she was being serious. I asked for some clarity and she explained everything. She wasn't happy to do it, but I was glad everything was finally in the open. She told me that she did, in fact, have a husband and a son. She didn't get along with her mother-in-law, so whenever her husband wanted to take their son to see her, she would reach out to me. That was the opportunity she had to be with me. Everything made sense when she told me that. That's why she didn't want me to move to her city, much less move in with her. It was why she was only sporadically available to see me. Right away I told her that I wasn't okay with what she was doing, and I told her that I was done with her. I also insinuated that I was going to tell her husband about everything. She wished me luck with that, and we both left the restaurant. When I got back to my house to try and look into her life to find out who her husband was, I realized she gave me a fake name the entire time I was with her. She was pretending to be somebody that she wasn't. She carried on a full affair using a fake name and everything, and I never noticed. I eventually gave up trying to figure out who she really was. I hadn't even thought about it for a few months. My friend back home messaged me out of the blue one day with a screenshot of a Tinder profile. It was my ex-girlfriend. There was a different name associated with the account, and the age was different than what I knew her to be as well. The pictures and bio were exactly the same. My friend recognized her from pictures that I had shown him and asked me if we were still together or if we'd broken up. He thought that she might have been trying to cheat on me, so he wanted to make sure everything was good. I called him right away and explained everything to him. He was as shocked to find out about it as I was. After that, we came up with a little bit of a plan to try and catch her. He ended up matching with her and they started talking. It's kind of funny, but I ended up telling him a lot of the things to say that I knew would work on her. She pulled the same thing that she had with me, telling him that she was only in town for a certain amount of time and asked to meet up with him. All I needed my friend to do was send me the screenshots from her Tinder profile and possibly get a good look at her ID when she wasn't looking. The last part was going to be pretty difficult. I waited patiently for any news about what was happening. About 2 hours into the date that they were supposed to have, my friend texted me with a photo of her ID. I know there is a huge privacy concern, but I wasn't going to do anything with it other than look up her husband. I had her name, her real address, and all the information I needed to find her. I searched for her online and, lo and behold, found out that she had a real estate business with her husband. They were prominent members of their community. Both of them even served as chairs in the homeowners association. She had a lot to lose, and I was about to take it all from her. I knew I had a couple of days before she would be coming back to the city, so I reached out to her husband as quickly as I could to try and meet up with him. I didn't know what to say, so I sent him a message with all of the information. It was kind of unbelievable, and I didn't really even expect him to listen to everything I had to say. Thankfully, I had some evidence that I could attach in the form of our text message exchanges, as well as the Tinder profile and some pictures she and I had swapped over the years. Took a few hours, but he eventually responded and agreed to meet up with me. We met at a coffee shop the following morning, and he looked like he wanted to tear my head off of my body. I swore to him that I knew nothing about him or his family. I think after a few minutes, he believed me. He even confessed that there were some signs that she was having an affair that he overlooked for the sake of his own family. Given the extent of how far she went, I think she proved herself to be completely untrustworthy. That was probably what really opened his eyes. I told him that he deserved better than her. She was clearly a monster for what she'd done. I could hardly wrap my mind around how selfish her actions were. I gave him everything I could to help him if he decided he wanted to pursue a divorce. I even told him that if he needed someone to talk to about it without judging him, I was there. Surprisingly, he actually took me up on that offer and we chatted about it quite a bit while he was going through his divorce. Over everything they went through, it was clear that I wasn't even the first guy she had an affair with. It was some way for her to escape the responsibilities of motherhood and her business without consequence. At the time, unfortunately for her, it all backfired. After their divorce, their joint business went under. However, the husband was able to continue representing a lot of people from their neighborhood. Everybody knew what happened and she was ostracized from most of the community. She ended up moving into a one-bedroom apartment and has an entry-level position at another firm in a different county. Now on to the next story. Story 11. I invited my girlfriend to meet my family and told them she couldn't speak Spanish. Then my grandma said awful racist things about her. Then we found out she understood everything. I've been dating this girl, we'll call her Olivia, for 4 months. She is of Jamaican descent but born in the US. I was born in Cuba but came to the States when I was 1. I would say I'm very, very Americanized, though I grew up speaking Spanish at home. The area we currently live in doesn't have many Latino people, so it's not assumed that people understand Spanish. When I started dating her, I asked her if she could speak Spanish, and she said, not really, and that her Spanish sucked. And we didn't really address it further. I was really eager to introduce her to my family as I thought my mom and dad would love her, and they had been asking about her for a while, so I invited them to our house for dinner with my mom, my dad, my grandmother, and my teenage brother. My abuela can't speak English much at all, but everyone else can. My abuela can be very judgmental and cranky and basically an a-hole at times, especially since her husband died and then she had a stroke 3 years ago. I told her before to be nice. However, I also told them she couldn't speak Spanish because that's what I assumed. So Olivia came over and everything was going good for the most part. She got along well with my family, and my mom especially was super nice to her. However, my grandmother decided she was in a nasty mood and started talking st about her. She said that she didn't expect Olivia to be so dark, and how she looked more African. She asked if she came from a good family and said if my grandfather was alive, he would not approve of her and it's better to date a girl who can speak Spanish since most black people won't even bother to learn it. She even said that my last girlfriend was much prettier than her. This is honestly blatantly untrue. Olivia is gorgeous, and most people say so. She made sure not to make it obvious she was talking about her and didn't gesture to her at all and mostly faced the TV when she spoke. I was mortified and couldn't believe she was saying all this. I told her to stop twice, but since I assumed Olivia didn't understand her, I mostly brushed it off and tried to ignore her since I didn't want to make a scene, and I didn't want to make it apparent to Olivia that she was talking about her. Olivia is the biggest sweetheart but is really insecure and has suffered from anxiety in the past, and I just didn't want to make it worse. My mom told her to be quiet as well, but my grandmother just did not give a st and continued with snide comments. To make things worse, my dad and brother just laughed at the absurdity of the situation. I don't think they really found it funny, but it was more of a, there she goes again, crazy abuela type thing. Olivia acted pleasant for most of the night, but then suddenly claimed she had migraines and she needed to leave. She thanked them all but left in a hurry. I already suspected she could understood some of what was said, and I felt terrible. After she left, I told off my grandmother for how she acted. I tried calling Olivia that night, but she ignored my calls until the next evening when she finally answered. I asked if she was okay, and she admitted that she took Spanish for 5 years and although she has no confidence to speak it, her Spanish comprehension is fairly good. I apologized profusely, but she was angry. She was mad since I didn't tell her I had a racist family. She was mad that my dad and brother laughed at her expense and was furious that I didn't defend her or stand up to my grandmother. I tried to explain the whole not wanting to cause a scene thing, but she didn't buy it at all. She said she felt like an idiot because her friend told her a lot of Cubans are racist and she defended me so much and accused her friend of being a bigoted jerk and how much I embarrassed her and made her feel like crap. so I just don't know what to do to fix this. She is furious at me and I understand why, but I was really serious with her and in love with her. We work so well together. I don't want to lose her over this. I feel like she thinks my whole family are racist a-holes as well when it's definitely not the case. My abuela sucks, but my family has no choice but to put up with her. My mom and dad do not have a racist bone in their body and my brother isn't either. I agree my dad and brother were STTY for laughing at my grandmother's rants, but they didn't know what else to do and were more laughing at how obnoxious she was being. Is there any way I can possibly come back from this? Anyone have similar experiences? I just don't know what to do to make it up to her. She really is angry and I feel like I hurt her a lot. Update. People gave me a really hard time in my original post, and it really made me realize how much of a dumbass I was being. I apologized profusely to Olivia and called out my extremely stupid behavior and basically begged for forgiveness. After a couple more days of being mad at me, she was willing to talk to my parents and my brother, who apologized and told her that they really loved her and that they didn't mean to hurt her. They tried to explain the situation with my grandmother and why she behaved the way she did, and they were just trying to minimize drama, but that what she was saying was wrong and they should have stood up to her. My mother got her a gift set from Bath & Body Works, costume jewelry, and chocolate to go along with the apology. So Olivia did forgive me and my family, which I am so relieved about because I really am crazy about this girl. I'm definitely not going to take this for granted. A week ago, my brother, Olivia, and I went to an amusement park, and my brother and her actually got along really well, and she's definitely convinced he doesn't secretly hate black people. I never thought my brother was racist. When he was in middle school, he dated a black girl. He's only 15, so I definitely don't blame him for what happened. It was my dad's fault for laughing, but yeah, he really likes her and is glad she doesn't hate him. My mom invited Olivia to a beach with our family on Saturday. My abuela stayed at home, and although she mostly stayed by me and my brother, she seemed to get along reasonably with my parents and seems to believe their apology. She was a bit hesitant to go. I have told my grandmother that if she wants me to be actively part of her life, she must apologize to Olivia. My grandmother actually agreed to apologize, but my GF doesn't want to talk to her, and I told her I will not force her to be around her, but I did tell her that my grandmother is sorry for the way she behaved. So yeah, that's my update. I appreciate all the replies no matter how harsh. It really made me realize my stupidity. Still have a lot of growing up to do, but I am really happy she took me back. Now on to the next story. Story 12. I do all the housework while working from home, but my wife brags to her friends that she does everything while also throwing away the lunches I pack for her at work. Hello everyone. My wife, 41F, and I, 42M, have been married for 15 years. I apparently surprised her by being capable of doing household chores and tasks, which I didn't think much of. My mom always asked me to help out with chores when I was a kid, so I didn't think it was me or anything. I do think I inherited her need to clean excessively. So bad that I can't eat until a mess is dealt with. My mom is an amazing cook, my aunt was a literal chef at a fancy hotel, and my dad loved having barbecues. It was pretty natural to learn from them and pick up a thing or two. The only thing I didn't pick up was how to make a decent cup of tea or coffee. I'm genuinely awful at it. It got to a point where I was handling most of the household chores and taking care of cooking, which I prefer anyways since she comes home exhausted. I've been asking our children 11F and 9M to do some minor tasks around the house and hopefully teach them this sort of thing too. She has a group of friends who hang out regularly. This time, it was her turn to host the group at our home. I offered to take our children out for the day, and it was all set. Before we left, I had to finish up some things for work. The office space is practically on top of our living room, so I could hear what they were talking about the entire time. One of the friends asked how she always kept our house so spotless, and my wife just bragged about how she was responsible for it all. Then they all started talking about their gripes with their marriages. A common theme was how unhelpful their spouses were. I felt pretty uncomfortable, so I just left the office and went out with the kids. I came back after they had left for the night and acted as normal until we got to our bedroom. I asked her what was up with that conversation they had and pointed out that I did the cooking and cleaning in our marriage. She told me not to take it personally and that she just wanted to fit in with the struggles of her friends. Now I just feel unappreciated, especially since I don't clearly remember any genuine gratitude for what I do from her. Since then, She's been pretty short with me. She says I'm weaponizing what I'm doing against her and holding it over her head. I don't expect her to compliment me each time I clean or defend me religiously. Just a little. My husband is pretty helpful actually, he does his share. Would be nice. I can't help but feel like her friends think I'm some sort of deadbeat who comes home to relax and neglect her. Update 1. October 23, 2024. I'm pretty shocked this post went as viral as it did, and I tried my best to speak to my wife yesterday. Today, I just can't believe that this is the woman I married. I tried speaking with her, telling her that what she did wasn't that big of a deal but was still not a nice thing to do. She didn't like me bringing it up again and just told me to suck it up and stop bitching about one mistake. She apologized, but in a tone that just sounded like she was just tired of dealing with this. I noticed her getting very heated and on the verge of starting an argument, so I backed off and switched to a different topic. I asked if we could adjust our duties at home to be more fair for both of us since most of our management fell to me. I mean, pretty much 90% of things like cooking/cleaning, including planning for our date nights or vacations for our family, rely on me. I do think it's an issue that she gets to come home and just tell me that she's tired. Then she got up in my face, telling me I had no right to lecture her about chore duties when I'm practically at home most of the time. She completely refused to hear me out and basically told me that what we have works best for our situation. She threw in my face that she was the moneymaker, and that balanced everything out in the end. Even this morning, she was pretty annoyed with me, coming downstairs in a bad mood. I'm very sure our kids noticed it too, but I drove them to school after they got ready. When I got back, I noticed that my wife left her packed lunch on our kitchen counter. So now I'm sitting here just feeling like the woman I've known for 15 years hates me. I guess I'll have to push this issue properly even if she gets angry. She's been ignoring my texts and attempts to call her. I can't just let her act like this, especially in front of our children. Update 2. October 24, 2024. I think I'm just done at this point. I did something I never did before and went into her phone while she slept. We both know each other's passwords, so it wasn't really difficult. Some of the cheating comments got to me, and I felt pretty paranoid about this situation. Instead, I found a group chat with some of her work friends, different from the other friends she had over. It was just non-stop mockery of me and some of the stuff I did for her. She told them how embarrassed she feels to be with me, and that I on her like a parent, and don't feel like her husband. The lunches I pack for her are humiliating, because I had sweets and other treats I know she likes. Some of her coworkers teased her about the snacks I have in for her, and she admitted to just throwing them out at work. She doesn't have any issue eating them at home, but at work she throws out my baking. She had some choice words to say about me in her chat, some of which I don't have the courage to type out here. One of her meme pictures was of me on my knees scrubbing a bathroom tile, edited to have some sort of dress on like I was some sort of housewife from the 1960s or something. I just closed her phone and left the bedroom. I confronted her about the chat in the morning and the contents of it, which got her panicking. I focused on our kids this morning and left her to her own devices. It's not like she would have appreciated a kid's lunch anyways. Now she's texting me like crazy at the office, but I think I lost all respect for her and what she's become. Not only does she find me overbearing and embarrassing as a husband, but then I find out she mocks me to her friends and exposes some sensitive relationship issues to her group chat. This will probably be the last update since I don't think she can come back from this. We just celebrated our 15th anniversary last month too. I feel like a loser now after seeing what my wife actually thinks of me. Commenter: are you a stay-at-home father? We both work. She makes about $100K a year while I make around $70K. She earns more, but she's definitely not the only income in our household. What makes my job great is that my boss lets me have a lot of flexibility so I can work from home and take care of the house and kids as long as I give him a heads up. Update 3, November 12, 2024. I know I'm going to get some hate for my decision at the end of this all, but I gave my wife one more chance. She gave me a real apology for her actions and how she treated me about 2 weeks ago. In her own words, she let her friends' comments at work and her best friends affect her too much. My wife wanted to feel included in the groups by playing both sides. One that has a useless husband and one that has a clingy husband. She's not using them as an excuse and did take full responsibility for how poorly she treated me, which is A+. She suggested some sort of marriage counseling for us and insisted on doing the planning herself to show me she's dead serious on wanting to make this work. She's copied me in her communications with the counselor, but it'll still be a while before our first appointment. She stepped up in the home too, doing more tasks without me asking. The compliments I used to get have also made a return, so I do feel a little more appreciated. My wife promised me that she wouldn't lie to her friend group anymore and give me the credit I deserve. The work friends, I don't know about their opinions on me, will forever be as they are, even though she talked to them. Part of this feels disingenuous since it took us getting into a bad spot for this to happen. Maybe it's just resentment talking. I just hope this works out for our sake and the kids. And no, she has not been cheating or had some guy in her ear telling her things. A lot of DMs are asking about that. Now on to the next story. Story 13. My fiancé always chose his sister over me, and he even let her plan our entire wedding, but when I said she was his main chick, he slapped me. I, 30F, am getting married to Roy, 31M. We met in college and hit it off right away. He's handsome, charming, smart, and supportive. We fell in love and planned our entire future together. We planned where to live, how many kids to have, vacations, college funds for children, retirement, etc. I love him so much. He's my soulmate and my best friend. He would tell me he's proud of me whenever I achieved something. He's super supportive of my dreams and ambitions. He'd motivate me to take up projects which I was hesitant about. He'd reassure me that I'm capable and talented enough. He'd compliment me every time I got dressed to go out and tell me how lucky he was to have me as his girlfriend. Roy's father passed away when he was just 8 years old, and his elder sister, Kim, 33F, was 10. His mother, Yummy, 55F, never remarried. She's a very kind and sweet lady. I never got to know Kim as she lived in a different city for work and rarely visited us. We got engaged 8 months ago in an engagement ceremony in my country where the bride and groom-to-be get engaged in a ceremony among family and close friends. Kim moved back to our city and found a job here. This is when things started to get complicated. It's customary here for the girl's parents to pay for the wedding. My dad hired a wedding planner and told me to plan the wedding with them to my and Roy's liking. When we started the planning process, my future mother-in-law stayed out of it, but Kim would tag along with us wherever we went, to the florist, to the wedding planner's office, to the caterers, everywhere. I wanted it to be just me and Roy. I told him that I didn't like my future sister-in-law third-wheeling. Something just the both of us must have been doing together. He told me that Kim just wanted to be involved in her brother's wedding, and I should be more welcoming of her. I would have actually been okay with it if she'd keep her mouth shut and not give us her valuable input. When I chose flowers, it would be, you should choose a different color palette. When I would suggest the chair arrangement to the planner, she'd be like, that won't give a proper view to the guests on the far left. I wanted to have coconut pudding at my wedding. It was my absolute favorite dessert growing up, and I wanted to share it with my guests on my wedding day. But guess what? No, not coconut. I'm allergic. The thing that pisses me off the most is that Roy always takes her side. When it's my choice versus her choice, he wouldn't fight or anything. He'd be like, it doesn't matter which flower it's going to be as long as it's you who's my bride. Let it go, babe, it's not a huge deal. The only thing that's important is that we're marrying each other and starting a new life together. When the coconut pudding thing happened, he asked me not to be selfish as it's not just about me and it's about both of us and our families. He said Kim is family, and I cannot exclude her from having the food at our wedding. I was really frustrated at this point. It's as if we're planning Kim's wedding and not mine. The final straw was when we were shopping for wedding dresses. Wedding wear would be an appropriate word, as it is our traditional clothing. My mom picked out this beautiful green dress for me, and I loved it so much. But Kim had to poke her nose here as well. She told me that green isn't my color and I should try something else. Roy agreed with her. Then I tried different dresses and finally decided on a rose gold dress that I liked too, but not as much as the green one. We then started to shop for the families of the bride and the groom. When it was Kim's turn, I kid you not, this bitch picks out the same green dress and decides she's going to buy it. I lost it. I didn't want to make a scene there, so I walked out. I and Roy had a huge fight about this at home. He told me that green wasn't going well with my skin tone and that it suits Kim better, that I should stop acting so immature, that Kim picked that dress after I'd already picked out mine. I couldn't believe my ears. For the first time since we started planning our wedding, I noticed how he's always taken Kim's side and never mine. I couldn't believe that the man I was looking at was the same man I fell in love with. Roy and Kim shared a strong bond due to losing their father so young. They were each other's best friends and support system growing up. But that doesn't justify him taking her side when it's our wedding and our vision. Back in college when we were dating, he'd brag about his sister to anyone he could, even if that person was complimenting me. Like, if someone complimented the taste of the coffee I made, he'd be like, "If you think this is delicious, then you must try the coffee my sister makes," etc. It was annoying, but wasn't a big deal, and I let it go as I knew he was really close to her. But this time I cannot let go. It's our wedding, not Kim's wedding. I yelled at him that if this wedding is happening, then it's happening like we both envisioned it, or it's not happening at all. Roy got mad at me and yelled that I was just jealous of his sister as I could never be as good as her, that I am a bitter person for holding a grudge against Kim even though she's been nothing but kind to me, that she was just trying to help, etc. I don't hold any grudge against her. I just want to have my dream wedding. Edit. I am currently at my friend's home. I cried myself to sleep after posting this, woke up a few minutes ago, and she told me that there are around 1,000 people who agree with her. I didn't want to read the comments because I was scared of the obvious. Honestly, I just thought everyone would be telling me to cancel the wedding because he isn't right for me, which of course you all did, and thank you for that. But the things you've all pointed out, like the emotional incest and how she could control our future, even my future kids, never crossed my mind, not once. I don't know why I couldn't see those things. I was so dumb. After reading the comments, I almost threw up. Looking back at our relationship, I might have ignored them because he would claim that their bond is stronger than other siblings because they lost their father and had to face hardship together. I'm so heartbroken to the point that I black out if I stand straight. This pain is too much for me to take. His mom called me on my phone, but I didn't answer. It's so overwhelming. It's difficult to breathe, and I feel claustrophobic. My friend told me I might be experiencing anxiety. We're gonna go see a doctor first. I don't feel like I'm in a condition to talk to anyone. Update. This is going to be a long post. The wedding isn't happening. I'm at my home with my parents, my sister, and my best friends. We spoke for a while to put our stories together so that I get the sequence of events right. I forgot to mention my sister, Maya, 34F. She works abroad and came home a week ago to help me with the then upcoming wedding and also to spend time with me. The day of wedding we're shopping, Maya stayed home as she was jet-lagged. My mom, 2 of my aunties, 4 cousins, 3 uncles, Roy, Kim, Yummy, ex-future Amiel, 2 of Roy's aunties and 2 uncles were also present. So we were like 18 people shopping for wedding wear. When I got upset and left, Roy followed me back to his home where we fought. At the store, though, my mom finally couldn't hold back anymore. She yelled at Kim and called her some nasty names. Kim retorted by calling me a few nasty names. This led to a messy shouting match between Team Bride and Team Groom. Yummy, attempting to calm the situation down, was also there. Police were called and they were all escorted out of the shop. After this whole thing happened, Kim went missing. This is when I had that fight with Roy and went to stay at my friend's home. Kim wasn't answering her phone, and she wasn't at any of her friends' or relatives' places. Roy and Yummy searched for her everywhere as they were worried for her safety, then found her at a distant relative's house the next morning. Yummy had called me, which I didn't answer, to ask if I knew where Kim might have gone. At the hospital, when I was inside the doctor's office, I had a full-blown panic attack. I started to hyperventilate, high pulse rate. I was passing out, then regaining consciousness for a few seconds before passing out again. I just remember a needle piercing my butt. I was knocked out for a whole day while my friend told me I was awake and acting drunk, but I don't remember anything that happened. I woke up on my bed at my parents' house. Nobody asked me anything or spoke to me about what happened. My mom smiled sweetly at me when she saw me wake up and asked me if I wanted some coffee, and guess what? Mom's coffee kicks Kim's coffee's ass any day. Maya and I spoke about her life abroad. My dad brought me some snacks and ice cream. It felt good to put off thinking about the wedding and the fallout to a later time. Maya hugged me while I slept that night. I remember my heart feeling warm and tears running down my cheeks. She kept saying, "Everything will be okay. Have faith in God. It's okay to cry and let it all out." Next morning, I got a call from Roy. I picked up. He asked me where I was, and I said I'm at my home. He said he wants to meet me at his place to sit down and resolve the differences between us. I said, "Okay, I'll be there. I can move on only if I end this chapter of my life once and for all." My dad drove me, Maya, and my mom to Roy's place. Roy, Kim, Yummy, and his uncle, Yummy's brother, were there. I know it's silly, but I hoped Roy understood his mistakes and was going to apologize to me. And boy, was I wrong. As soon as we all sat down, Roy started yelling at me for making a scene at the wedding dress store, and he went on to tell me how Kim went missing, how she was so upset because of the things my mom had said to her that she could have harmed herself, how his mom and him had to drive around the city all night in search of Kim, and how I was so heartless to not answer Yummy's call. I calmly asked him where I was that night. Like Kim, I hadn't answered my phone too. I too was upset because of our fight. Did the thought of my well-being ever cross his mind? He went quiet for a few seconds, then tried to say something, fumbling his words. It didn't even make any sense. I told him that I now know who is more important to him, and it's definitely not me. His uncle intervened to speak over me to my dad, saying, "Kids these days fight over the smallest things. I'm sure you can make your daughter understand how married life requires sacrifices and isn't like in the movies." My dad told him that it's my daughter's life, and only she gets to decide if the issue is small or big. So let her speak to her fiancé. I looked back at Roy and told him that I know that I am the side chick and your sister is the main chick. Any person with even a shred of self-respect won't be fine with being her own husband's side chick. I said, "You are free to marry your sister at the dream wedding that she has planned." At this moment, I saw his face turn red, and before I could understand what was going on, Roy had slapped me across my face so hard that my inner cheek and my nose started to bleed. My dad punched him on his face, got him in a chokehold, and continued punching on his guts. Yummy, my mom, and his uncle were trying to separate my dad and Roy. Maya hugged me tightly and was tending to my bleeding nose when Kim yelled like a banshee, blaming me for something. I'm unable to recall what she exactly said. Even Maya doesn't remember it properly. I think it was on the lines of, "I wish you had never come into our lives and made it a living hell," while marching up to me with her hand in the air to hit me. Maya held Kim's hand before she could hit me and backhanded slapped her. Kim fell to the floor and screamed like she was being skinned alive. By this time, the neighbors came in and separated everyone. The police and ambulance came a few minutes later. Roy was bleeding from his mouth, and his face looked bluish. The ambulance took him away. I was taken in another ambulance. After I was treated, I was taken to the police station where mine and Roy's family were seated, but Roy wasn't there. Yummy approached me and told me that she's sorry and wished me luck for my future. The police took my statement and asked me if I wanted to press charges against Roy. I said yes. They informed me that his tooth had been knocked out and one of his ribs was broken, so there is a chance he might press charges against my dad. By midnight, we were all allowed to go home. This morning, my friends came over, and we all had our breakfast together. After a lot of discussion, we decided that I need to start therapy as well as medication for my mental health. We ordered pizza for lunch, and my dad kept making lame jokes. Later, Mom, me, Maya, best friend 1, and best friend 2 account owner, started reading the comments on my post. Mom was so happy about the replies to my comment about wanting to call my mom and cry. She told me that I should never worry about being vulnerable with them. I need not put on a strong front for them when I'm actually hurting inside. She said she wished I'd contacted her sooner. I would like to thank every single one of you who took out time to comment and show concern for a complete stranger. If it weren't for people like you, I wouldn't have seen the issues that I see so clearly now. I might have even forgiven him and ended up in a miserable marriage. I thank you all from the bottom of my heart. You all restore my faith in humanity. And for those who said that I need to grow a spine, well, yes, I do, but I'd like to share my POV. In my country, girls are taught from a very young age that girls who keep families together are good girls and girls who break families are bad ones. Even though my parents never taught me that, and I have a master's degree, this concept somehow got ingrained in my brain at a very young age. That's why I wouldn't speak up to Kim. I didn't want to cause conflict between them because that's what the bad girls do. I hope therapy helps resolve it. I'm still grieving the loss of not just the past and the relationship, but also the beautiful future I dreamt of. I'm grieving the loss of the love of my life, a person who actually never existed. I know it will take time for me to heal, but I do feel lighter. My parents are over the moon, but they hide their happiness from me as they know I'm still hurting. They look like they've aged backward. Roy has been discharged from the hospital. I hope he and his sister live happily ever after. We have reached the end. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to like and subscribe to the channel for more videos like this, and give us your thoughts about the stories in the comments section. Thank you and see you in the next video.